Good evening and welcome to the November 10th, 2025 meeting of the City of Summit Zoning Board of Adjustment. My name is Miriam Mazan and I'm the Vice Chair of the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In accordance with New Jersey Statute 10:4-10, adequate notice of this special meeting has been provided to a newspaper of record and has been posted here in City Hall. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. For the benefit of the interested public, this meeting is being live streamed to the city's YouTube page and also broadcast on Summit's government channel, which is Comcast 34 and Verizon Channel 30. A transcript of this meeting is also being taken using the video and audio, so we need all speakers to use one of the microphones in the room. Please note that fire exits are to my right, your left, and at the back of the room where you entered. The city has a listening system to assist the hearing impaired. If anyone needs hearing assistance, please obtain the system at the dais and return it thereafter. Ms. Sands, can you please call the roll of the members?
Sure. Vice Chair Zahn?
Here.
Mr. Yuko is excused. Mr. Malay is excused. Mr. Nelson?
Here.
Mr. Curran is excused. Ms. Chifo?
Here.
Mr. Feskins is expected but not yet present. Mr. Chanchuli?
Here.
Mr. Nearing?
Here.
Chairman Liketz is excused. You have a quorum. You may proceed.
Thank you. Zach Stasinski is the zoning board's attorney. Mr. Stasinski advises the board members on matters of law and is the key interface with an applicant's attorney. Mr. Stasinski does not vote on the applications. Jessica Sands is a city employee and is acting as zoning board secretary. Our board secretary works with applicants on preparing their applications, planning our agendas, and keeping our meeting minutes. The board secretary also does not vote on the applications. Also present are our experts who are hired annually by the board to provide input. Tonight, we have Marie Raffay from Collier Engineering. Also present is Tom Behrens from Burgess Associates, our board planner. These experts are seated at the table to the right of the board, the public's left. They do not vote on the applications. Our board consists of 7 regular members and up to 4 alternates. All members can participate in the hearings, but a maximum of 7 can vote. Most applications require a simple majority to be approved. Before we enter into executive session to vote on the application, you will be advised as to how many votes are required. Each case will begin with the applicants or their attorney giving an overview of the application process to date and the variances that are required. We then hear from any additional expert witnesses the applicant may have to explain the application and why the variances are needed. The board experts, followed by board members, may ask questions of the applicant, their attorney, and the expert witnesses. Due to recent cases running excessively long, we strongly encourage applicants and their experts to give brief and concise testimony so that we may get to as many cases as possible in a given evening. Once the board members and the board professionals have completed their questioning, the public will have an opportunity to ask questions. This is not the time to tell us what you think about the case. That opportunity comes at the end of hearing. Please be careful as to how you phrase your questions. They should not be preceded with a statement about the case, but should be a direct question to the witness. Also, before you ask your questions, please clearly state your name, spell your last name, and provide your address. It is important that our court reporter be able to keep a clear and accurate public record. After all witnesses have been heard, members of the audience have their second opportunity to speak, and at that time, you may express your opinion, positive or negative, about the application. Then the public hearing is closed, and we enter into executive session where the board members discuss the case and vote. You will be able to listen to our executive session, but you will not normally be able to participate in the discussion. And then just to go over our cases tonight, our agenda is going to be slightly changed from what you may have seen. 6 Llewellyn has withdrawn their application. So I'm going to ask, and are we going to should we just vote to carry 45 Prospect now?
Yeah, we can.
Let's do that, just out of, is there anyone here from 45 Prospect?
Madam Chair, James Weber on behalf of the applicants on 45 Prospect. If there's anyone here on 45 Prospect, I'm happy to meet with them. We're asking that this be carried. Our plans are still in flux. They have not been completely revised. We're trying to eliminate the building coverage variance, and as a result, we're moving the elevations around, and they're just not done. We met yesterday, Sunday, to give you an idea of how we were trying to work through this, but they're not done, and as a result, it would be not respective of the board's time. If we could have, we're coming in, Samantha and I are coming in on the 17th. If there's an opening, we'd like to be able to be heard on the 17th.
December
certainly-
17th, I think. I don't know. Is that possible?
Yeah,
Okay,
possible.
okay.
We can put them on the agenda if we have time.
Yeah.
If not, then we carry
Okay.
the 26th.
Okay, so
Well-
we can put you, well, assuming we have a motion to carry, we'll
Right,
we'll
if I
get to
have
that.
one more point,
Yep.
Madam Chair, but we are understood that February 2nd's open, and if it doesn't work for December 17th, we'd like to keep February 2nd so we can conclude this application. Is that
Yes.
acceptable?
Yes. Do we have a motion to carry?
So moved.
I just want to mention to this gentleman about the property. I was there today, and that entire property is unsecured.
Yeah,
And it's, I mean, just a note of caution to your client. It's kind of dangerous. There's a, really big, deep, large pool in the back that's empty. The fences are open. The door to the garage was open. The house is unlocked. I just think it should be.
There should have been caution tape up. Had it
There's
fallen
caution
down?
tape up, but everything's open.
All right, then,
The gates are open, you can walk in. And,
Perhaps-
the pool is right there, it's like 8 feet deep.
if there is going to be a board member, Madam Chair, that wants to see it, perhaps Mr. Cianciulli's observations are good, and we can have someone there to escort the board member through the
No, I'm
property.
just saying for safety, in case
Yeah.
a kid walks through into the property or something and falls in.
I observed the same thing today. It's more for your protection.
Yeah.
we
All right.
probably maybe want to lock that gate to your point, if possible.
But then the board members can't see the yard, so if there is a request to see it, then all we need to be contacted, and we'll have someone out there to escort the board member through after locking the place up. Does that make sense, everyone?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Weber.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion to carry? Yeah, and a second.
Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Chifo.
Yes.
Can Mr. Feskins vote? He just walked in.
Did he hear did he hear?
I didn't hear enough to be able to vote, so I
Okay.
should have
Yeah,
said.
thank you.
Mr. Cianciulli,
Yes,
Mr. Nearing.
Yes.
Okay.
And express my appreciation to Mr. Cianciulli, Mr. Nearing, and the board for advising of the steps that we can take to secure the property. It's appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will be hearing two cases tonight, 47 Hillcrest Avenue and 32 Montrose Avenue. I think, just to kind of expedite this, do either parties, like, raise your hand if you think your case is going to take more than 30 minutes? No? Okay. So let's start with 47 Hillcrest.
Raise your right hand. State your first name and please spell your last name.
Jessica Roy, R-O-Y.
Anthony Ekmekjian, E-K-M-E-K-J-I-A-N.
Do you swear, please keep your, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having us here. As mentioned, my name is Jessica Roy. I am a Summit native. I grew up here. I went to Franklin School and moved back in 2020 with my family, my husband Anthony, and we had our 3 children here at Overlook, who are now almost 5, 3, and 1. Over the 5 years that we've lived here, we've thought about how to make our house more functional. And one of those things was building a new mudroom on our house, as well as moving our garage to be attached to the house, which as a byproduct will create a safer barrier for our children to play in a more open backyard. They currently play in our driveway, which is sloped toward the street, and we're constantly chasing after them. Balls are rolling into the street or almost into the street. We're catching them. So the design provides this safety function, which is great. Further, we identified that there's a spot in the back of our property that's quite unusable, and it's a perfect spot to build a tennis court, which will provide a great place for our children to play safely as well. Further, it'll be a great place to play tennis with our neighbors, which we've discussed with them as well.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've gone through a 2-year design process. We started this in June 2023. We've thought through lot coverage, we've thought through the setbacks, we've thought through trees and certain, maintaining the trees. So we've got a property with a lot of shade trees. We want to keep that going. But, the point we wanted to make on the iterations that we've gone through back and forth is, we put together a package and a permit set that had no variances, or what we thought would be no variances. And we were a little surprised because one of the things that came back was for accessory structure. And I guess there was a new way of looking at the accessory structure definition. And our understanding is now there might be language in the ordinance that would kind of reword it such that the accessory structure only has a roof on it. And so this is a court, it's an athletic court, we want our kids to be able to play on it. So, we wanted to kind of talk to you about the overall plan. When we brought our civil engineer, we brought our architect, but we're doing an add-on, an attached garage, an attached mudroom. We're gonna take away about 90 feet of driveway space to open up the backyard. And there is this spot kind of in the back of the property away from all of our neighbors that could fit a narrower tennis court, which is what we're here to talk about. And we're really excited about it, talked about it with our neighbors. We've incorporated their input into this application. The other thing we wanted to note is that just last week we got feedback from the Environmental Commission. So we noted that they made mention of some of the trees and how we think through that. So we wanted to let you all know that we had John Linson, the Summit Forester, out twice over the last 2 years. We cared a lot about this. I mean, our neighbors were focused on trees. We were focused on the trees. We want everything in this tennis court area to look very natural. And so John suggested, different ways to go about it. And one of the things that came up was, how we would show you all the trees. And so we put that on our plot plan, but there was some feedback about should we have a landscape plan, which we just want to let you know we're happy to work with you on that. We're flexible. If you all think it's best for us to have conditions to the vote, we're happy to do that with you. But overall, our plan is to construct a tennis court, and that's why we're here.
Also wanted to just mention that the historic nature of our home is very important to us, and we have been very thoughtful about the design with the detail and wanting to make sure that it adheres to both our neighborhood as well as the original design of the home. We want it to look like it's always looked this way and actually is an improvement on its current beautiful design. So we've been, again, very considerate and thoughtful about all the different components of this renovation.
Thank you. Board experts, do you have any questions for these?
You're gonna have your engineer speak?
Engineer and architect, yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll wait.
All right.
Board members, any questions? I just have one, because you mentioned the putting in a narrower tennis court. What is the reason for making it narrower?
To comply with setbacks from the back property line.
Thank you. You swear Mr. Clark in?
Sorry. Can you please state your first name and spell your last name for the record?
Andrew Clark, Clarke.
Thank you. And can you please do a brief description of your qualifications?
Certainly. I'm a licensed land surveyor and civil engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is in good standing. I was responsible for the preparation of the plan. I've appeared in front of this board frequently. Last week, I think, was the last time. And I've appeared in front of Chatham Boroughs, Zoning and Planning Board, Madison, both with some frequency.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Would the board like to accept this expert?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you. It's working. So I'm going to start by describing the existing conditions briefly, just to set the stage. Making reference to the topographic survey that I prepared, the plan is dated April 14th, 2025. The original field work, as was indicated before, was done in late 2023 at the early stages of the development of this project, so it's gone through a couple of phases. But that's when the original survey was done. I did actually return to the site to check some things after that. There was a pool house that was added on the neighboring property that I added in some subsequent survey work. And that was just a few months ago in April of this year. So the existing site it's block 1104, lot 6. And it's in the R25 zone on Hillcrest Ave, just about 300 feet from the Bellevue intersection. What's existing on the site, it's primarily rectangular in shape. It's just under 60,000 square foot property. What's existing now is a 2.5-story dwelling that's kind of centered on the property with a modest portico in the front relative to the dwelling itself. And then there's a terrace wrapping around the back of the existing dwelling. There's an in-ground pool with a spa, and then sort of an older historic it looks like a converted carriage house of some sort. It's a 2-story structure that they use for recreation and as part of the pool house. And then to the back left is a detached 2-car garage that exists. And then, of course, we have the paved driveway that comes all the way from the entrance back to that detached garage, sort of framing the left side of the property here. With regards to the topography, the general grades and the drainage flow is from the rear of the property towards Hillcrest. Behind the pool house and garage, it sort of slopes towards those structures. And then once you get to that point, it's pretty flat in between, and again, gently slopes in front of the house towards Hillcrest. And that describes the existing conditions generally, and then I can get right into the proposed conditions. So I'm going to flip to the lot grading plan, which has the same date of April 14th, 2025. So what we're proposing to do is remove the detached garage and the driveway completely, and then there's a proposed addition that's shaded on the plan at the sort of back left of the existing dwelling to provide an attached garage and a mudroom for transition into the living space. And then the new driveway would have to be constructed and reconfigured to relate properly to this addition. There's also some extension of the porch in the front. There's the modest portico, so they're trying to make now a wraparound porch with some screened porch area on the right side. To allow for some outdoor use that's screened off from the bugs. And then in the back, the area that was just discussed is this tennis court area. So the width is a little constricted because the pool house is there, and we want to stay within the setbacks for the rear setback. So we're at least 15 feet in the back right corner, and the boundary sort of diverges away towards the left, so it's a little more than that. It's about 17 feet at the back left corner of the proposed tennis courts. And in order to effect this change, what we're going to do is implement some stormwater measures to make sure that we're ending up with a good product on the property and not causing any sort of problems. So we have one tank system that we've actually already discussed relocating it, I think, in combination with discussion with the tennis court people, who I had the tennis court graded so that there was a sort of a high point in the middle and it was grading slightly in either direction. Tennis court people indicated it'd be better to have one direction pitch, which actually in this case might work out better from the stormwater standpoint also, because we will have a 1%, so it's a very modest grade, from right to left, and then have the drain framing the left side and move the dry wells over. The dry wells on the left side will probably be a better location in our discussions, because there are a number of large trees over on this side. We'd like to protect them and maintain them, whereas over here we're ending up placing those dry wells in the location where there's currently a driveway and the detached garage that's going to be removed, so there'll be less impact to any kind of trees and the canopy that's there. So that's a slight change from what I have shown on the plan in terms of the grading. But we're going to have the tank system that's going to collect all that water and manage it right proximate to the proposed tennis court. And then the second system is going to be in the front yard and is planned to capture the addition, which is just over 1,100 square feet. And then there's a high point on the driveway that's right about where I'm indicating, opposite the neighboring house. And everything from that high point drains very gently to the street, and everything else behind that will drain to an inlet that's in the back left corner. So we're managing about 1,200 square feet of the driveway and a little less than 1,200 square feet of the new roof area with this dry well. In addition to that, in conversation with the owners, there's a couple of spots in between the pool house and the pool and the terrace behind the house and the pool where it's very level. There's not much pitch. Water does trap and pond a little bit in there. So I've introduced a couple of minor infiltration drains and a couple of inlets here to make sure water isn't trapping in that area. And that's also going to the dry well. Now the dry well sizing, since that's sort of an undefined quantity and it's really more for localized ponding, it's not going to contribute much to the dry wells, but nonetheless, to make sure this system isn't overtaxed, I have it sized up about 50% above what the numbers would be for the paved and roof area. So it's supposed to manage about 600 cubic feet. I have 967 cubic feet. So it should be more than adequate for the area that it's handling up here. So that's the stormwater design. We're obviously impacting this area in the back, and then we're regrading the area between where the driveway was. And there's like a landscape berm that's here now between the pool and the driveway. We're going to knock that down, and this will be more of a gently graded yard area that's there, with some landscaping around the edges. I did want to point out that along the left edge of this proposed driveway, there's a line of arborvitaes that are there, shown to be removed. Those appear to have been actually placed by the neighbor on Lot 7, along with the little lawn drain that's right next to the drain that we're proposing at the corner of the driveway. So there's a little bit of lawn and that landscaping that are encroaching on our property that will be corrected as part of this. They've been in discussion with this neighbor who seemed to be supportive of the application. I don't see a problem. I think it was raised in a couple of the comments as to how this screening might occur. That was one of Mr. Linson's comments. He didn't have a lot of comments, but he did indicate that it might be a benefit to have some screening along the driveway, but that there may not be enough room. Some of that may need to be on the neighbor's property slightly. And in fact, we're going to look at whether or not some of those arborvitaes could be relocated, depending on their condition and the ability to relocate them without killing them. Otherwise, some new screening would have to be planted. But that is something that's proposed as part of this. We didn't submit a landscaping plan. Anthony had met with John Linson a couple of times in the field and looking at this, and he understood what we were considering and seemed to be pretty satisfied with the plan. He expressed the concern about the screening, but at the time indicated that he didn't think it would really be necessary to have a landscape plan. However, we did get that comment from the Environmental Commission, and as was indicated a moment ago in testimony, they're more than happy to do that. They're obviously going to do some landscaping as part of this. It's a beautiful property. They're going to maintain and upgrade that beauty with landscaping in addition to these improvements. So that would certainly be something that would be perfectly acceptable in terms of a condition to have a landscape plan submitted. But that's why one hasn't been submitted yet, because it didn't seem to be warranted from discussion with John Linson in those field meetings. There are trees that are planned to be removed, obviously, in the back here, and there'll be some loss of canopy behind this pool house. I would just point out that obviously this would all be well detailed on a landscape plan if one had been prepared, but what remains on the property around these areas that are not going to be disturbed, and even on the fringe next to the garage that's being removed and the tennis courts, is about 22 trees that are larger than 12 inches. And then there's another 20 to 22 trees, maybe more, that are between 6 and 12 inches. So there's almost 4 dozen trees that are going to remain on the property, many of which are quite large. So of the 22 trees that are above 12 inches, 10 or 12 of those are 20 to 42 inches. So they're very mature, trees that have canopy and a good landscaping profile associated with them. I did some quick numbers on the GIS from DEP to just check what we have for canopy. Even removing this section in the back, the canopy that will remain in this part of the property and on the left side along the fringe still puts us at almost 30% of the lot in canopy, almost 20,000 square feet. So that's actually, I did some further digging, and there are a lot of numbers and studies that have been done about, percentage of canopies and in suburban areas. 40% is like the perfect world. 30% is very good. A lot of properties get down to like 15% or less, and saw some studies talking about the disparity in canopies between poorer communities and wealthier communities. 30% seem to be a very good number, and we'll have that when this is done. So we're not clear-cutting the lot, even though we are clearing this area in the back for the tennis courts. But I would also point out, relative to the tennis court and its impact on the neighbors, it was testified that, for one, the neighbors may likely play tennis with these owners. That's part of the incentive to have the tennis court here. But also, the way this is going to situate, because of the level of the existing floor of the house and where this situates, we're actually cutting into the slope in the back, so it's going to be sort of recessed down. So the neighbors in the back have a pretty sizable yard that they've fenced in. They're not really going to see much of the tennis court, especially when landscaping is added along the top of the wall that's there. Same thing, but to a little lesser degree on the left and the right side. Of course, on the right, there's the detached garage. On the left, there's the pool house. So those areas are somewhat obstructed by their own improvements on their properties. But I don't think that this tennis court is going to have any negative impact on the neighbors based on that. The fact that it's going to be recessed down, 3 to 6 feet below the grade. And so it should have a relatively low impact on any of the neighboring properties, in addition to the supplemental landscaping that'll occur. And that describes the proposal. I'm happy to walk through the memos with your professionals and then field questions.
Great. Tom?
I'm trying to decide if you want me to go through, you want to have him go through the letter, and then we'll address things, or you want me to ask him some questions? What do you think?
It's up to you. We've all read the letter, so if you
Okay.
wanted.
All right,
Yeah, I
so-
tried to cover as much as I could that was in your letter.
Yes. So, so some things that I am curious about, you went over all the dry well systems, the sizing of them, I'm satisfied. I know I had some questions in my letter, but I think he's addressed what my concerns were. So I'm okay with that. You talked about the lawn drain that currently exists.
Right.
And
Right.
it's probably a neighbor's, I'm all right with that. Could you talk about some of the walls that are in the backyard, the height of them, the fence on top, and what's happening with that?
Sure, so we have, at the back corners, the wall from the base of the wall to the top of the wall is 7 feet, and that's the highest point is along this back side, and then they come down to grade as you move forward. We're putting a 3-foot fence on top. The ordinance has a limit of 10 feet for the fence, for the wall fence combination, so we didn't want to exceed that. And based on the fact that it's a 7-foot wall, I don't think we need to. The 3-foot fence is really for protection for, people that might be wandering around behind there, or landscapers, whoever, the kids, to have some protection for the wall, so they're not, coming in too much proximity for that, but just fall protection, really.
So how about the ends of the courts where you might have a ball going over that area it looks like.
Yeah, the
they're
wall
3
comes
feet?
down and is lower.
Right, so you only have a 3-foot fence on that, where
Yeah, I
the
mean,
ball's going into the neighbor's yard all the time.
it might make sense as that comes down to have sort of the fence sort of hold the top elevation and follow down to provide that. Outside of that, I mean, I don't know if there's other ways with like netting or something that they could put something up that was transparent, but not so much a fence, but to protect. But I have a feeling that's going to be also a matter of trial and error. So they're going to, set it up and then find out how many balls are flying onto the neighboring property, because they probably don't want to lose the balls either.
Right. Well, even that, if you got the ball going into the neighbor's yard, or even just, just beyond that, and if it's sloping down towards the road, those balls are then going down towards the road, if they're in the neighbor's driveway.
Yeah, I don't think they're ever going to get out to the road, just given the distance and the landscaping they would have to navigate. They'd be pretty ambitious tennis balls at that point.
Even, I don't know how far the neighbor's, driveway or their improvements, or I don't know where it's located.
Yeah, I mean, the neighbor's garage on the right side is at almost 12 feet off the line.
Okay,
And we're at 35 feet from the edge of the tennis court to the boundary on that right side. We're a little farther there. On the left side, well, I don't have a dimension on it, but that's about 8 feet. It's probably 16, and it might be more than that, almost 20 feet on the left side.
so is I noticed on a rendering that it looked like there was proposed landscaping that was.
Yes, no,
Is
there's,
that gonna,
yeah, we're planning to have landscaping framing all that too, to backstop, the wall and the fence that's there. So there are gonna be, that was part of the discussion in the environmental comments, I think, also was about how we have arborvitae's planned in there to provide some screening, which would also screen the tennis balls themselves. And there was a request that maybe some other consideration be given to some shade trees, which we're perfectly happy to do, and intersperse those with the screening that the arborvitae's would provide. I don't think we want to eliminate the arborvitae's for all those reasons we've been talking about, but we could supplement that with some other shade trees also. But yes, there will be screening all around those 3 sides.
okay. Is there any plans for lighting out back to have some?
My
lighting?
understanding is they're not planning to have lighting such that you would be having night tennis play.
Okay,
I think there was reference made to a couple of lights on the pool house itself, but not sufficient to light the tennis courts.
how about any noise that might be coming from the tennis court? Is it gonna be marked out for pickleball? Is there?
They're shaking their heads no. I hadn't been getting any indication of that, and they're confirming that no, there's no plan to have pickleball involved.
That's all I had.
Well, you answered most of my questions, Mr. Clark. So it's my understanding that the applicant's requesting a single variance? Is that accurate?
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up because it does raise a point in this application. So the variance that was flagged, we submitted for a permit, and it was rejected under that basis that we've exceeded the maximum dimension permitted for accessory structures. And it's my understanding, I've watched a little bit of the council meeting the other night, they tabled there's some proposed changes to that specific part of the ordinance and some other elements of the DRO, but that particular item is part of a proposed revision to the DRO, and what they're proposing to change the language from an accessory structure to say an accessory structure with a roof, so that it's clear that it's roofed structures that shouldn't be more than 24 feet in dimension or 576 square feet. So I believe, unless something, unpredictable happens, that ordinance revision is likely to move forward. They've just tabled it to work out some other details, as I understood the council meeting to say. So that should be coming up as a change, which if we just waited for a few months, I suppose, then it wouldn't be a variance and we'd get a permit. But I just think it is probably helpful to know that that's already being examined, because I think the discussion, at least that I've had with people, is like, wow, I've never run into this before. Never had this kind of interpretation of the dimensional restriction on an accessory structure applied to anything other than a garage or a gazebo or a shed or something like that. And, then the question becomes, well, where do you draw the line? Does it apply to pools and patios? And so I think that was part of the discussion that is driving the revision.
Right.
But yeah, that is the only variance that we're seeking at this point.
And I'll give some color on the history of that ordinance
Sure.
provision. So going back, predating the 2020 DRO, which is the one that we're governed by now, there was this sort of unspoken exemption of FAR of 576 square feet for garages that would always be excluded from the FAR calculation. So that dimension is what was sort of incorporated into this requirement, just as a general guideline as far as maximum accessory structure dimension. The idea being that it would be big enough to accommodate a two-car garage or a 24 by 24 dimension. The way that ordinance was written, it covered all accessory structures and buildings, which I don't think was the original intent, to Mr. Clark's point. So that would include pools, patios, tennis courts, et cetera, which do not have roofs. So again, I think the original intention was to really regulate accessory buildings and not all structures per se, but the literal interpretation seems to include those other accessory structures. So Mr. Clark's right in that the governing body introduced an ordinance in September of this year to clarify that one provision that would exempt things like pools and tennis courts, so that moving forward, something like this would not require dimensional variance either from floor area or the 24 by 24. They'd still be governed by lot coverage and setbacks, et cetera. But that ordinance has not been adopted, so the applicant can't benefit from that at this point. They could wait, to Mr. Clark's point.
No, and I'm not trying
I
to.
think the board could take that into consideration. Again, it's not on the books yet, but again, understanding sort of the history of the ordinance, that I don't think it was intended to ever prohibit a tennis court, which would always require dimensions larger than permitted, or certain pools, basketball courts, what have you, which are, fairly, I don't want to say typical, but there are a few of them throughout Summit on appropriately sized property. So that's the one variance that's required as far as I understand it. The tennis court meets the appropriate setbacks. Right?
Correct.
15 feet for an active accessory structure.
Yes, and we're within lot coverage.
All right, so just as far as technical comments, again, you answered most of my questions. Bear with me while I scan through. So, one of the questions pertained to the planting or screening proposed along the driveway.
Right.
So just to understand, I guess it's whatever the board might want to see occur there, which could happen in the form of solid fencing or landscaping, might be more appropriate. Again, the issue being that the neighbor's okay with the planting on their property. which
Yes.
Sometimes creates a maintenance.
No, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I mean, given that they planted the arborvitaes that are there, but just not on their property.
Yeah, no, I mean, it happens.
So, they're obviously willing to maintain the landscaping such as it is.
And my final comment would be just a standard provision to screen the AC units. in the
Of
site.
course, of course.
Beyond that, I have no further comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
I just have a theoretical question. Is it possible, excuse me, under the accessory structure ordinance that they're reconsidering, that they could make the tennis courts and pools more restrictive?
I don't,
mean, anything's
as a result
possible.
of the pending ordinance? You
Well,
mean?
maybe, well, you're separating tennis courts and pools and other things like that from garages. So
Well-
could they say, could part of that new ordinance be pools and tennis courts need to be X size or a smaller percentage of the lot coverage?
I think in theory, that could be a provision that's considered. Right now, it's not currently a provision. The only line that's been included, and I can read it,
I think they changed.
I don't think we should, obviously, we shouldn't consider this proposal for our vote.
I'll
but-
read the language in the ordinance as proposed. Existing as, so right now, section 35-9.8B2 states, in residential zones, no accessory building or structure shall have a floor or ground area in excess of 576 square feet, nor shall any dimension be longer than 24 feet. The proposed language is intended to state, in residential zones, no accessory building or structure with a roof shall have a floor or ground area in excess of 576. So really, it is intended to focus on those structures with a roof or a building per se. So I don't think that would limit the area or dimensions of other structures without a roof. I think the ordinance would be silent, meaning that as long as you comply with the other parameters in terms of coverage and setbacks, you'd be compliant.
Okay.
I just do want to note that it hasn't been adopted yet.
Has not been adopted.
No.
Correct.
I have two questions. What's the surface of the tennis court going to be made of?
Hard true, like,
No, not hard.
oh, paved. Yeah, and asphalt.
Asphalt? Okay. And then also, the back of the carriage house has doors. So does it just go out onto like ground? Like there's no.
That's what it does
There's
now.
there's no hard surface?
There's nothing there now.
Okay.
No,
It's just
so
weird
it-
because it just goes
Yeah,
out to.
I know. It
to
is
dirt.
it is a little bit weird, but that's how this design then integrates into where those doors come out. So you would walk out those doors right onto the tennis court now.
Any other questions?
Wait, I guess while we're at it, pertaining to the carriage house, what sort of utilities go into the carriage house?
Well, I actually haven't been in the carriage house, but I know there's definitely a gas line that runs in there, and
There
there's
are
a couple of
AC
AC units
condensers,
next to
yeah.
it. So, I mean, it's a two-story structure.
I guess the question would be, I don't think we have floor plans for it, at least I'm not seeing them. Could it be used, or has it been used as an accessory dwelling unit, or as a dwelling?
I don't believe so. It certainly didn't look like that when I've
It
been out there a
could
few
it be,
times.
though, is
Well,
the
I
question,
mean-
yeah.
I guess the question is whether or not it has a full kitchen or a full, and full bathroom. It would need both. So, no, I mean, that's the.
No kitchen? No kitchen.
So I guess
Has-
the
it
board
has a
might want to
bathroom, though.
stipulate that it could not become a dwelling unit.
It does have a bathroom.
I don't know.
Yeah, I was in it many years ago.
Don has been everywhere in town, just for the,
Sometimes it might be, like sometimes not.
yeah. Just a couple of questions about the retaining wall. So it's 7 feet high. What, is that the height on the back of the wall, that sort of what you're going to be screening the neighbors from? That's the height? And then where is the 7
No,
feet?
so from,
'Cause there's-
if you're the
you said
neighbor,
notching up.
you're
How high is
not
it
gonna
gonna-
see the wall necessarily, because
You'll
it's
see the
dropped down.
3-foot fence.
You'll
That's
see
it.
sort of the fence and,
Okay.
you might see the balls flying in the air above the 7-foot wall, but the high side of the wall is in the back, and then the low side is the tennis court itself.
It's a retaining wall.
Yes. Correct.
Okay, so if you're on the tennis side, you see the full 7-foot
Right,
wall
you'll
plus
see the wall
fence.
on the tennis court side, that's
Okay.
right. And so the neighbors aren't gonna be looking at a wall, if that's the question, really.
Okay, and then the other question I had was about the plantings. So I see that from the wall to the property line, you have about 6 feet on one side and 7.8 feet on the other.
That's right.
So there's some all of these trees, right, and there's a fence there, right? Is that fence going to?
Well, there's a fence that's on the neighbor's property, the post and rail fence
Okay.
that's there, but it's a few feet onto the neighboring property.
Okay. I was just wondering if you think that's sufficient space for the roots and everything, but that there are no other structures or anything it's going to impact, because sometimes even with the retaining walls, you put big trees, 5-10 years later, you have the roots.
Yeah,
going up.
I mean, I think the good news up in that location is there's nothing else they're going to interfere with as they mature. So sometimes when you put them right next to a driveway and there's only 3 or 4 feet in there, it starts to stretch out and impinge on the driveway itself. That's not the case here. It's just going to fill out that space, really.
And then the property owner said they wanted to keep it as natural looking as possible. And I realize this is also, the Environmental Commission comment, but I think 10 arborvitae back there do provide a lot of screening for the neighbor, but it's the opposite of natural looking. So to that
Right, so I
point,
think, I did attempt to comment on that a little bit earlier, that we did discuss that memo and the implications of it, and these owners are perfectly willing to mix in a little more variety in that screening, rather than having, a pure wall of arborvitaes. Put back a few shade trees interspersed, and
I mean, can we put that in as a condition? I don't know how many trees. I'm just thinking, this is such a beautiful property that, and it's so natural right now that the arborvitae almost feels out of place. But I recognize it has a purpose. So
Yeah, no, it does provide good
It's sort
screening.
of balancing
Yep.
the purpose, the function, and kind of retaining what this property looks like.
yeah, understood. I mean, I guess that would be up to the board as to how they would integrate that into any kind of deliberation, either the submission of a landscaping plan, as was suggested, for review and approval as a condition, or if you want to stipulate something specific relative to the arborvitaes, I suppose that could happen. It might be a little harder to do, but
Other one's perfectly acceptable.
that's up to you.
Yeah, you can do either one.
Yeah, okay. Well, I guess we can discuss that during.
But there's no owner opposition
yeah.
to any of that idea, though, just so it's clear.
Okay.
Just, you had mentioned a few minutes ago about the possibility of, in the future, once they realize that the tennis balls, go flying as the kids get older, of possibly putting in some netting with,
Yeah, I'm not a tennis expert, so that's
Neither
just
am
me
I,
talking
but-
about things I might have seen.
I tried to play, not very good at it. Would there, if those netting, or that netting was to be installed in the future, I'm worried about the height of the poles, sticking, we want to keep it as natural as possible, then you got these 40-foot, 30-foot poles with nets on them going around a tennis, or each end of the tennis court. That kind of defeats the purpose of if that happens. I'm not saying it will, but I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Thought
if it's
process on that.
treated as a fence, and there are limits to heights in the ordinance
Yeah.
with regards to fencing, so I suppose if it's treated as a fence and they applied for that and it didn't satisfy the ordinance, then they'd have to come back in front of the board.
Couple thoughts on that. So if you did something like net posts, I think you might be governed by the accessory structure height limitation of, I forget if it's 12 or 15 feet.
Yeah, I think it's
Potentially,
15,
something
yeah.
like that. Another thought is, while your client's here, if they wanted the option of maybe having a 10-foot fence like suggested by the board engineer, you might ask for that now. So the ordinance only allows up to, I think, 7 feet in the rear yard. So if the board would be willing to grant 10 feet for those two areas, it could be their, at their option to install it or not. It looks like the landscaping proposed might suffice as well. If it's just a wall of evergreen or plantings, it might contain the balls also at the end. But they have options, but I think they might want to leave this meeting with all
It would
the
create
options
some
that they're
flexibility
exposed.
in terms of what options they have if they decided to pursue that. Yeah, that would make sense.
I'm just saying you're here now, so.
Yeah, no, I
If you want
agree.
to
I
ask
agree
for it.
completely with you. That would make sense.
So Tom, just to clarify, you're talking about the sides of the court, because the back, they are
The
already at
ends.
10 feet.
The
So
ends, right?
Yes.
Well,
Yeah,
one
the
idea
ends.
was that potentially they install the fencing up to the height, so it has a consistent height.
Right.
Where at the low point would be about 10 feet, which, depending on how you read the ordinance, somebody reviewing it from a zoning perspective might say, well, we only allow 7 feet.
Right.
So just throwing it out there, if that's an option. They may say, we don't want to do that, and we just leave that alone.
Just a comment, what do the tennis experts say? They never saw the court.
I'm not sure we had, they may be more expert than I am in terms of tennis if they're building a court, but I don't know, 10 feet?
And that would be, your suggestion's great, if, because we.
Right. So what that would mean is, like, here we have the 7-foot wall and then a 3-foot fence. And so as we come down the sides, those walls come down. So the idea would be that a fence could continue at the same height, and all the way down here where there's no wall, it's 10 feet high. And then back at the top, it's you know, whatever the wall is and the difference, but it's still at the same elevation. I think that's, but what's being pointed out is down here, if that fence then became 10 feet high, that's actually a variance, because the fence is only allowed to be 7 feet, I think.
Well, right, you may not want to do that, the netting might suffice, or the landscaping, or you just fetch them from your neighbor's yard.
Yeah,
Be an option.
those are all options.
But if we're here and it is a variance and we ask for that permission to have this fence that comes down the sides as high as 10 feet, then they have the ability to make that adjustment if they need to.
Yeah, so I was kind of thinking if you're gonna go the netting way, maybe now is.
Yeah, and maybe it is just netting, you know, versus a fence all the way up, you know, just for aesthetic reasons.
But the net posts, that's up to 12 feet tall? Is that?
You know, we've run into this with like batting cages that get installed in people's yard, and it's a question of what is this, how do you rate, so I think absent of anything specific in the ordinance, we kind of look at it as an accessory structure, you know, which has a maximum height of, I think it's 15.
It's 15 feet, yeah.
Right, so, which is reasonable, but might be too high for certain things to,
I would say.
but in this situation.
Give them
it's
flexibility,
not
but
good.
control it from our side.
I agree.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Seeing none. And then the architect
And we have
is-
our architect here, if you'd like to hear about the architecture.
Actually, I just thought of one thing. The excavation that's taking place, you're gonna remove about 5 feet of
Yes.
soil? That doesn't.
Yeah, but less down here. It's going to vary, but, you know, it gets more at the back, but less at the front.
I just,
Short night.
yeah, for the architect, I just had one question. And
Sure.
so maybe it
That's
doesn't
fine.
require a whole presentation.
he's
because
here.
If we don't need, yeah.
If you're done with me, I'll hand off the mic.
State your first name and spell your last name, please.
Michael DiGeronimo, G-I-G-E-R-O-N-I-M-O.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
And can you just give the board a brief record of your qualifications?
Sure. I am a licensed architect and planner. Been working in architecture, planning, and urban design for 30 years. I'm licensed in the state of New Jersey as an architect, in the state of New York, and the state of Pennsylvania. I'm also licensed in New Jersey as a professional planner, and I have the AICP credential, which is the National Credential for Planning. I've appeared before this board numerous times. I've appeared before other boards in the state and in other states. And happy to answer any questions.
We'll accept your credentials. Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. So I can, instead of doing the presentation, I'm happy to answer any questions, and if there's something specific that anybody wants to look at or talk about, I'm happy to do it. And I can
Sounds
go
good.
through just
Let's
our
see if
proofs
our
really quickly.
Board experts will give them the
Okay.
opportunity to ask any questions
Sure.
first, if there's any.
I don't have any at this time.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the entirety of the building improvements are conforming. Is that accurate?
That's correct. So all the proposed improvements to the building, the architecture itself are conforming, as far as setbacks, coverages, floor area. That's correct.
And there's an effort to maintain the existing historic character of the home as far as materials, design.
Exactly. It's a 1890s home. We're trying to match the historic details and give it a sense that the improvements were seamless with the original design.
One question that came up was whether the extent to which the floor area calculations on sheet 2 capture all of the I guess, proposed areas of the house. In particular, I think the mudroom,
Yep.
whether or not that's included.
They do, so we're adding the attached garage and the mudroom. So it's a 3-car garage that's proposed, so 576 square feet is exempted.
Right.
So the additional garage space for that third bay is 279 square feet. The mudroom itself is, I believe it's 279 or similar. And then the loft space above the garage is 607. We did account for the pool house, both the ground floor and the spaces on the second floor that are higher than 7 feet in height per the ordinance.
And the mudroom itself is listed as house first floor, that's the 279?
That's correct, yes. And then per the ordinance, floor area for screen porches is counted towards that. So we did count the portions that were screened of the new porch. The portions that are outside of the new, that aren't screened are not counted as floor area typically per the DRO.
Thank you. No further questions.
Are there any questions from the board?
Just one silly one, and maybe you're not the guy to ask.
It's okay.
Maintenance for the tennis court. How do you do that? Do you have to bring machines back there or anything like that?
I am not the guy to ask.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, I was going to
I
say.
probably should have asked you, sorry.
I'm not an expert, but I did belong to a swim club for a while that had tennis court maintenance, and they had the Hartrue, which is a different kind of material than what we're doing. Those actually require quite a bit more maintenance. They have to be raked out all the
Right.
time and replenished from time to time. The paved surfaces really just have to clear the leaves mostly, and there's not a lot, and occasional painting.
My question was where the mudroom was counted, so that was the same, but then I'm looking at the plan, and then it looks like everything's existing also except for the pantry. Is that existing and just being retrofitted, or
The
is
space
that
is existing, it's being reconfigured in terms
Okay,
of its
all
use.
right.
It's the current mudroom, so, but it's.
So it's already,
It's not new
already all in
footprint
there?
now, yes,
Okay.
correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, seeing none, is there anything else that you'd like to say before closing, or?
I don't think so. I think we've covered it, and we would submit this to the board for its consideration, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just noting that there is no public for this, does not appear to be any public for this case, so we don't have any public comment. So we'll go into executive session now.
So
Don't have to- yeah.
Can I just clarify with the applicants as to whether you are requesting the variance for the 10-foot fence in the rear?
Yeah.
Yes.
You are, okay.
Yeah. And so
Actually, if we can expand that, I think we should leave them flexibility, that it's whatever structure to control is limited to 10 feet, whether it's a fence or a pole with screening, with netting.
We can certainly make that.
I would recommend that, because design-wise, it may not look as well for the
Yeah.
fence.
Yeah.
And the screening may be less impactful on the neighbor, or on the
a little
landscape.
softer looking, yeah,
Exactly.
potentially. Was, one other question, sorry, was this, the porch, the wraparound porch, was that included in the impervious cover calculations for the, it was, okay. For the stormwater? I was, yeah, okay. So what are our conditions here?
Okay, so our conditions are compliance with the conditions set forth in the board engineer's memorandum. The applicant shall provide screening for the AC units. There shall be a 10-foot limit on fencing or other accessory structures on the side yards of the tennis court, as was just discussed. The carriage house shall not be permitted to be used as an accessory dwelling structure. And then either one of these, as the board's preference, both of these were offered by the applicants. It's either submission of a landscape plan for review and approval by the city forester and environmental commission, or supplement the proposed shading around the tennis court with shade trees other than solely arborvitaes in whatever specific fashion the board would like.
Okay, thank you.
Question on one of those conditions. You said 10-foot structure. I think if it was a netting,
think that we said accessory structure because the pole could be up to 15
Maybe if you
feet.
clarify the purpose of it, you know.
I think that works.
Fencing or netting to contain, you know, well, whatever, however you want to word it, but.
Okay, but one, we just said 10 feet, but I don't think we want to limit it to 10 feet if it's an accessory structure and a pole and that.
Right, so there's, to distinguish between the two, if it's fencing and netting, if it's netting, presumably it could be a little taller. If it's fencing, it would be capped at 10 feet, so.
So 10-foot limit on fencing or netting on the side yard of the tennis court?
Fencing, not netting.
So it's 10 foot on fencing or 15 feet on netting?
Per
Is
the
that
ordinance, right.
per-
That's,
Well, that's pursuant to the ordinance, so there'd be
right?
no-
So there's no,
you could be silent, you could just address.
you
the
don't have to
fence
say it, you
component.
don't need a variance for that? Okay,
Correct.
okay. Perfect.
So we're adding that as a
10, the 10,
condition?
I
Well,
think.
that's just
is
a
the-
variance,
Right,
that's
we
not a
don't need to
condition.
add the no, we don't need to add the 15 feet, because, yeah,
Well, 10-foot
the
fencing.
10 foot, yes.
A 10-foot
It's a
fence.
fence,
Yes.
but not a condition.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
that's what I'm
yes,
trying to-
yes,
okay.
yes,
But the netting is not.
right. Okay. Who would like to start?
I can support this application, I think it's,
Mr. Nearing, can you speak into the microphone? Thank you.
I can support this application. I think it's a nice plan, very thoughtful redesign of the structure itself. And they've done whatever they could to get the tennis court to comply with the, with our rules. And I agree that if it was a pool or a patio, there wouldn't be this discussion. Because I don't see much difference between a tennis court and a pool or a patio in terms of accessory structure.
Technically, they're all considered to be the same. So it's the issue of whether or not they have a roof that's being clarified in the ordinance, in the
Right.
forthcoming ordinance. So technically, pools and patios would fall under that.
Oh, okay.
But again, I don't believe that was the original intent. It just is the current interpretation.
Okay. So I still support it.
Anyone else?
Listen, this is an application that I think we've spent way too much time on. It could have been much quicker. I think we did help improve it with clearing up this 10-foot fence. But it doesn't impact anybody. It's from an FAR point of view, from a lot coverage point of view, it's a technical issue that I think candidly will get resolved in the DRO. But from my point of view, there's no detriment to it. There's benefits. They're improving the neighborhood, and it's for use with our kids. I think we're wholeheartedly support it, and I think we should move quick.
Else?
Ditto.
Yeah, I can support it. I mean, it's a large property, and they've considered lowering the width of the tennis court, which I think was good, rather than insisting they have a full-size court. I could support this.
Well, I could also support this. I think that it is, you are here sort of on a technicality. And even though it doesn't really matter in terms of what you're asking for the variance, it was really nice to see what the Historic Preservation Society had to say about the work that you're doing to seamlessly integrate everything that you're doing on the property, which is nice. And it's kind of great to be able to use some space, find a use for a space that is otherwise not very functional on your property. So I think that said, I think we just would need to decide just have them submit a landscaping plan or do we want to, with shade trees, how about with shade trees as specified, and we'll leave it to the forester to decide how many and where, is that people?
That's acceptable, sure.
I would
Yeah.
vote to just leave it to Linson.
Anybody else on that?
I knew what you said.
You just leave it to the forester to determine how many should trees.
I think it- yeah.
I personally would like it to say with a mix of some trees, but that's just me. If everybody else is good with just the forester, that's fine.
I agree with you, but whatever's, hopefully he comes back that way. There's a lot of trees being removed, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just that the requirement for replacing trees does not require them to be necessarily always specific trees, and that was what the Environmental Commission's point was. It sounds like the property owners don't have an issue with it, so maybe if we just say, including shade, proper screening, including a variety of shade trees as agreed upon with the forester or something.
I'm okay with that, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm fine with
So
that.
I'll just read the condition, just so we're all in agreement. Submission of a landscaping plan with proper screening, including a variety of shade trees for review and approval by the city forester.
Motion to approve?
Second?
Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Chifo,
Yes.
Mr. Feskins,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli,
Yes.
Mr. Neering.
Yes.
All right. And next we have 32 Montrose. I think that needs to go the other way, I guess.
Thrown out.
Yeah. Waiting for them to set up. Yeah, no, let's do it. Yeah.
Hi, can you please state your first name, spell your last name for the record, please?
Francesca Levine, Levine.
Douglas Levine, Levine.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Do you want to give us a little history of your property and what you're requesting here?
Sure. Provide a quick intro and answer questions before we hand it off to our architect. We moved to Summit in 2017. We've been residents of 32 Montrose for 8 years now. We have 2 children, ages 5 and 8. It's the only home 32 Montrose that our kids have ever lived in. We're deeply involved in the neighborhood. Our kids are their best friends who live in the neighborhood. Our families are very close-knit. We just vacationed with our neighbors last week. We're deeply involved and invested in the neighborhood. We're involved in the community, the schools, tried to be good citizens. I'm the assistant coach of my son's travel baseball team. Francesca's a class mom at both Wilson and Washington schools. We're both members of the Elks, and we're very involved in the community. The rationale for the project: since we love the community, we want to stay there, we don't want to move. Most of our neighbors have already renovated their homes in the past couple of years, and they intend to stay long-term, and so do we. The house isn't workable, though, as 2 little kids continue to grow, and the plan we've presented is designed to correct that. The additional space, while modest, will allow for 2 equal-sized bedrooms for the kids. Currently, 1 is a good size, but 1 is very small. The primary bedroom will have a separate full bath. Currently, there's only 1 full bath in the entire house upstairs. Updated hall bathroom. We'll have 2 sinks. Currently, there's only 1. We will have 1 guest room / office. Currently, there is no guest rooms or offices in the house. We are adding for parking for 4 in the front of the house. Currently, there's only 2. And it's front to back parking, so you have to move the car to get out the other one. There's pavement that goes down the side of our house, but it's too narrow to open the doors, so they can't be used for parking. We're asking for an additional storage shed in the back since we don't have a garage. This is where we will be able to put a lot of our things. New drainage in the backyard so our kids can play out there. Currently, water sits when it rains, and we also have runoff from our neighbors' kitchen yard, so it could take several days to dry, so that's been addressed as well. We explored the option of adding a garage, but given our undersized lot, it's not possible without enormous expense or loss of livable space. The scope of the project is respectful to the neighborhood and the town. We spent considerable time making sure the house will fit with the surrounding area. We will be upgrading the landscaping and outdoor entertaining space, which will increase the curb appeal and better utilize the lot. a couple of the design notes, which Rob will walk you through. We're not expanding the footprint of the house, only marginal space in the rear to account for a pantry. We're adding a porch in the front of the house, which will add curb appeal and a place to sit and watch the kids play. We're adding a mud room, will help greatly with kids' backpacks, shoes, coats, etc. We have a double height bump out on the right side of the house that will add additional curb appeal. No trees will be removed, and we will be adding 2 large green giants to the rear to enclose the entire backyard. The entire project is to satisfy a growing family while staying in the neighborhood. There's really nothing indulgent in the plan. Thanks for your time and consideration. Let us know if you have any questions.
Thank you. Do our board experts have any questions for the homeowners?
No, I don't for the homeowners. I'll ask your architect.
Same, I'll
Any questions from the board? And there is no one from the public here, so we can, the room has cleared out. Okay. So would you like to introduce your expert? Who do
Sure.
we have?
Rob Forbes.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Can you state your first name and spell your last name for the record, please?
Sure. It's Robert Forbes, Forbes.
And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And can you give a brief qualification of your, record of your qualifications?
Yeah, sure. I graduated from NJIT with a Bachelor's of Architecture 2007. I became licensed to practice architecture in the state of New Jersey in 2014. My license is in good standing. I've been practicing kind of in all these local towns, basically focused in residential architecture since then. I've appeared before this board before, Madison before, Chatham Borough, Chatham Township. I can, most of all the local towns.
Any questions from the board or no? Nope.
Nope. Good?
Happy to
All right.
accept.
I'm gonna, is this on or it has to be turned on? Hello? Is it on?
You have to turn it on.
Good? Okay, so just to start off, this is 32 Montrose Ave in Summit. It's lot 13, block 505. It's in the R6 zone. It is 6,250 square feet of lot area. It is an undersized lot from lot width. The zone requires 60 feet. It only has 50 feet of lot width. And it's kind of creates some existing non-conforming hardships. Well, one specific non-conforming hardship of there not being a garage on site. We tried very hard to design this house not to need a variance. We actually submitted for a permit, and then found out that the fact that it had no garage was going to trigger us to the board no matter what sort of improvements we did, because we did not have one enclosed space for parking. So that's kind of what now has triggered us being here. And then as part of doing that, we tried to kind of enhance the design a little bit with things that we were kind of finding as shortfalls in this design. And we now have I would say a marginal variance for lot coverage, FAR, and building coverage, which I will walk you through. The site engineer is not here tonight. I'm gonna walk you through his site plan, which I worked closely with him kind of coordinating just to kind of get a concept of the site here for us. The existing house here is built in 1952. It's a post-war colonial. It has a long, narrow driveway that goes down the right side of the house. And per the planner's report, and technically, this counts as 4 spaces, even though, as you heard the homeowner say, it's really hard to navigate these spaces in the back. There's a chimney that almost makes it impossible to actually park cars and get out of those cars. And there's some arborvitaes along the right side that are the neighbors that they have to keep trimmed. And even though it kind of looks like you can park 4 cars there, they really can't. And they always park up front here with these 2 spots. As you kind of go past the site, there's then this existing shed that's in a non-conforming location. It's too close to the property line. It's only, I think it's like a foot and a half off the property line. And there's this raised elevated deck. If you visited the site, the house needs some updating, needs some work, which I'll walk you through on the architecturals. What we're proposing to do here is to remove all of this lot coverage that's on the right side and give us an 18-foot wide driveway to accommodate 2 cars wide. And we're hoping to stack 2 cars each. So From the planner's report, we only have 31.5 feet from the right-of-way to the edge of this curb here, which by definition, the parking needs to be a 9 by 18 is a spot. So we can't technically park 4 on site, but if we were to use the right-of-way, that's an extra 10 feet. In reality, we can. We can talk through ways we can remedy that if you all feel it's important to technically have 36 feet from the road to the edge of the curb here. I'll talk you through that as I get into the lot coverage. We're adding a new walkway. We're adding a front porch. The existing second floor of the building, which I'll show you, has this, the second floor overhangs in the front. So this porch really helps to conceal some of that overhang and kind of detail the front facade a little bit, which I'll show you on the architecturals. We're adding a very small pantry to the back of this kitchen to make the kitchen more functional. We're also adding this kind of 2-story element along the right side, which we really think helps break up the right side. It helps us get a more functional bedroom on the second floor. And I didn't want to hang it on the right side, which I'll walk you through on the architecturals. If I only had second floor space and hung it out and didn't have first floor space, I could actually delete my FAR variance, but I think it looks significantly better to do what I did. I'll show you that as I get there. We also have removed the rear deck and pushed the patio down onto grade, which really I think helps open up the rear yard of the site where it looks a little crammed back there because the deck is kind of hanging above the ground. I think that's very helpful. We're also removing the old shed and putting a new shed that is only 4 feet deeper but rotated and in a conforming location from a setback standpoint. This is really to help kind of take the burden of not having a garage on site. We need a little bit more storage space just for the bikes and whatnot. But all the cars would remain up front. So just walking through some of the variances that we have. We have no garage, so that's the one variance, right? So we have we're required to have one enclosed space. We do not have that. From a building coverage standpoint, we're required to be a max of 20%. We're existing at 18.7. We're proposed at 21.5, which is a deviation of 1.5% or 95 square feet. So like that existing shed that was removed was 96 square feet, just to give you a sense of what's actually creating that. It's a little bit of a combination of the additional space in the shed, the front porch, which we think is inherently beneficial to the neighborhood, the pantry, and the box window, and this little second floor cantilever in the back that I'll walk you through in the plan. From a lot coverage standpoint, we're required to be 40% max. We're existing at 41.4. We're proposed at 41.7. We have a 0.3 increase or 21 square feet. So we're really trying hard to kind of not intensify this site any more than it already is. From an FAR standpoint, we're required to be 35% max. We're existing at 26.8. We're proposed at 35.3. We are 0.3% more than allowed. Again, that is 17 square feet, this box window is 22 square feet times 2 floors. So if I could delete one of those floors, I would be conforming from FAR. So it's very marginal, what we're asking for here. Just since I'm on the site engineering page, I'll try to address one of the comments. I normally wouldn't have even had a full grading plan done for a project like this because there wasn't that much more than 300 square feet of disturbance. We would have probably done it in-house. But because on this site, kind of to the right of us, is a corner lot that faces Gates. It's 34 Montrose is the address. It has a long driveway. That's a gravel driveway. And water sheds down that driveway. So water is pitching from this right side to this left side. We're not changing any sort of the drainage patterns on the site. There's been an ongoing problem at this site where Gates doesn't really have any storm drains. So in a rain situation, there's water that actually runs from the street down the gravel driveway and into these backyards and kind of sheds across these backyards. So this trench drain is not to really pick up our water that we're trying to, like, not keep on site. It's trying to really take almost the street water from Gates and get it back to the street. And I have some pictures that I can show you of this gravel driveway. This has been an ongoing problem for some time. I'm a little bit more familiar than normal with this property because my brother actually lives next door. So we've been dealing with this.
Hopefully he's not the water guy.
He's not the water guy. He's started to manage some of the water, and Doug is trying to manage some of it as well as it moves downhill. I'm going to get to my set of drawings, the architecturals. So the building conforms from all setback standpoints, height standpoints. There's no variances for that. You could see this is the front facade. The existing gutter line, the existing second floor has like a 6'6" plate with really low windows. They don't meet egress. It kind of clips down a little bit. There's small rooms, so we're kind of ripping the roof off the second floor, lifting that front wall, adding some detail under this overhang, adding this front porch, turning this kind of colonial revival into almost more of like a Georgian shingle revival, which has vernacular styles in the area that we can kind of relate to. We're adding this front dormer. As I come to the floor plan, you can see we've removed the driveway. This driveway stops. We have a little walking path into a side entry mudroom. This is a walkway to the front door where the front foyer is. We've kind of opened up the floor plan, used the scissor stair to kind of keep the air, keep the staircase areas kind of as concise as possible. Have an open space across the back. This is this little pantry or scullery that we're adding. You can see the new steps down to the patio. They come up to the second floor. This is kind of the big addition that we're doing. Is right now the second floor ends here. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. They're adding this primary suite across the existing first floor that's already there below. So we're getting kind of 1, 2, 3 bedrooms plus a primary suite. This is where I really need to do this projection here on the right side, which again conforms to setback, because I'm always trying to at least maintain 10 feet dimension as the minimum dimension in a bedroom. I feel like once you get smaller than that, the rooms start to really get a little cramped. And then we have a staircase up to kind of an unfinished attic. Finished storage attic. This has a very small basement just below this original area where the ceiling's really low, so this is just trying to add some little storage space for them. The ridge is set at 6'11", so there is 0 space above 7 feet. I know that was one of the questions. It is tagged here. So this finished attic space conforms to the ordinance. Here's our side and rear elevations. That heavy dotted line is the existing residence. The building height's about 26 feet existing. We're only pushing it up about 5 feet to 30. I think it's 30'5". And again, that's about 4.5 feet below what maximum height is. So again, we're not approaching max height. We're trying to be conscious that this is a smaller site, and we're not trying to really intensify it much more than it is. And we feel like, again, there's the house to the right's on the corner, so it's like that's its backyard, so there's a lot of air and space between these lots. And that's really it. I can answer questions. Again, we've scaled this building into the neighborhood. We've tried to use the porch to be respective to the neighborhood and the scale of the neighborhood. And, really excited about this project.
Thank you. Questions from our board experts?
So, could you talk a little bit more about the drainage?
Yep.
I understand that you have the infiltration drain in the back along the property line. It's
Yep.
collecting that water. And it looks like it's taking a really long distance. Could you talk about why that is and why it's
Yep.
going into a neighboring frontage for
So I prepared, I took some photos yesterday. Took these myself. I just figured I should, and I
So
could mark
this
this
is-
as an exhibit.
Yeah.
Going to mark this.
A1? Is that-
A1. So if you look at this photo E here, 34 Montrose, you can see this is those arborvitaes are along the driveway of ours, right? So you can see this is the street up on Gates. This is where the driveway doesn't go up before it goes down, and the water just runs off the street and runs down this driveway. What we're doing right here, we're kind of, this is where this driveway's falling in, is we're adding this large trench drain, and then we're picking up water, and we're wrapping around this way simply because of the contours. We cannot get pitch to get directly out here, so we're kind of coming around our site to where the grade's the lowest, and then just moving down the right-of-way just a touch until we can get low enough to get daylight access.
Okay, so your daylight access is in front of the neighboring frontage simply because you can't get the pitch?
We cannot get
to
pitch.
get it out to the road. Okay.
Correct.
Do you feel that you have enough cleanouts on there? Since it's such a long run, it's probably a good idea to make sure that there's roots that are not intruding on it. I
Yep.
see that you have cleanouts, but they look like they're on the adjacent property.
I think that's just the arrow that he's pointing with an arrow to it. But yeah, there's a clean out up here at this corner, there's a clean out back here. I think there's sufficient clean out, but I'll bring that up with them to ensure that there is.
Just because it is such a long distance.
Yep.
It's only gonna-
Probably,
it's only
maybe,
gonna help the property owner.
absolutely, yeah, make it easier to sneak out.
Okay.
Oh, there's one up here too in the front corner.
Okay.
So we have 3 of them currently.
Do you know if the applicant has spoken to the neighbor about their landscaping that's in front of that's in the right of way?
I have spoken to the neighbor about the landscaping in front of it, yes.
Is that the neighbor that you have, that you?
That's my brother, yes.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I think that's all I had. You know, your increase in impervious coverage is significantly less than 300 square feet. So there's no stormwater mitigation that's required, and I can see that they are working on something because they do have a localized problem.
Can I just ask you a question about that? Is with the discharge to the street, that's not, even though I recognize the problem that it's trying to resolve, which actually is not like allowed, like you can't be discharging street water into somebody's driveway, it's supposed to go the other way, but I understand you're not the only house that has that issue, or that, let's say, suffers from what happened, the consequences of that issue. But does that require like any special permit for that?
Yeah.
Because the discharging to the road is not something that,
A road opening permit, right?
He'll have to have a road.
Okay.
opening.
okay.
And it would be ideal to keep it on the property, but it sounds to me like, and I didn't specifically ask that, so maybe we should just talk about that. Is there a reason why you can't store the water on the property?
I mean, it's a significant amount of water. The soils in that area are primarily clay. It is a high water table. They do have a low basement ceiling height with a sump pump that pretty continuously goes off. So it would be a lot of infiltration to try to put on site. I'm not going to say it's impossible. I'm not the site engineer, but it would be a lot of water to try to keep there. And again, it is street water that we're trying to put back in the street.
Right, right. It's just because the problem when you have a point source now, you know, where it was kind of coming from a larger area, and now it's discharging at one spot, you know, you risk icing conditions and things like that. So it would be the only concern that could come out of that.
Well, I think some of it, again, it's a trench drain, right? So some of it is going to disperse into the ground a little bit, right? Not all of it's going to collect into the pipe that's sitting in the trench drain. And there is a similar setup one lot down, that if there is any overflow, it gets hit again and gets dispersed. So this is the water has been just shedding through these backyards for years, and they're trying to control it's just hard to keep that all on site, given the soil conditions that are out there.
And I can't tell from your picture of the driveway, the neighbor's driveway.
Mhm.
This is a little off topic. But the picture we had of the neighbor's driveway, it looks to me like they have when I'm looking at a Google Street View, shows that they have a downspout coming from their roof discharging right to their driveway. So they may be having like half of their roof coming down to the driveway and contributing even more than what the road runoff is.
Yeah, I haven't had conversations with the neighbors. Maybe Doug has. He could give you more insight of what's gone on here, but I know that they've been trying to get this issue resolved for some time, unsuccessfully.
Like I said, that's just a sidebar thing.
Yep.
So-
What about the parking? Do we want to touch on that, the parking thing?
Well, hold on, we're gonna let, should we, you can talk
Well, I know
about
she was
parking,
talking
but
about
also.
impervious
is
coverage,
that-
so.
yeah.
So do you want to talk, you can discuss the parking.
Yeah, so the, I was saying, like, if we wanted to hold 36 feet from the road and increase the size of the driveway another 4.5 feet, I'd have to increase my coverage by 84 square feet, which it would push my lot coverage from the 41.7 to 43.1. Then I could legally say I have 4 spots on site. I would rather have more green on the property, because the reality is I really have 41.5 feet to the road to park. So
So you're suggesting that if you were to
Count the
have
right
a
of way.
conforming driveway or a more conforming driveway, that it would increase the impervious coverage on the lot, and you would prefer to not do that? Is that what
Well,
you're-
if I was to address the RSIS standard comment, I can do it, I just have to increase the
Just
lot coverage on site.
clarification, the variance is because you don't have one covered
Garage.
parking space? Is there a code variance that you're required to have 4 off-site parking? Or is it just, is there a code
So
requirement?
for a 4-bedroom house, RSIS requires 2.5 spaces, which would round up to 3 spots on site. So I guess I would need a parking variance. I have to, I'm not sure on this. I would need somebody,
So there's the one variance from not having a garage, which is an
Correct.
existing condition, and your testimony is that it can't fit, they can't accommodate. On the one hand, we have a driveway that arguably fits X number of cars, even though they're saying practically it doesn't because of the landscaping and the bump out. And so the question is, is what they're providing, can that accommodate the amount of house and bedrooms that are being developed? The ordinance requires 2 spaces per unit. So that's the city's ordinance. RSIS, which is the state standard, requires 2.5 for the number of bedrooms. That rounds up to 3. So the question is, I think, can the required number of parking spaces be accommodated on site? One observation is that there's no sidewalks in this neighborhood, so where the lot line ends and the right-of-way begins is an invisible line that nobody would know, if not for looking at it on paper. So, people can park cars in a tandem configuration that backs up all the way to the curb, probably with a little wiggle room in between. So it seems to not be an uncommon condition in that neighborhood. I'm just looking at aerial maps on Google now that a number of driveways have this exact condition where the cars basically park up to the curb, where in reality the property line starts 5 or 10 feet into, from the curb. So from a compliance standpoint, it complies with the ordinance. They might need an exception from RSIS. It's a minor deviation, I think, from this point. The ordinance permits a maximum driveway width of 18 feet, which is what they're proposing. So again, it's that distance requirement. That technically it's not being accommodated on the lot.
So if the city puts sidewalks in,
They'd be
Then it could
parking
be-
on the sidewalk,
but
right?
then
If
that
they-
would-
If they have more than 2 cars.
right, but then that could, they could come back later on and say, hey,
Well,
You
their
changed it
options
up.
could be to elongate the driveway closer to the
Mhm.
house, right? Is on-street parking permitted in that neighborhood?
not overnight.
Probably.
Not overnight, that's city
That's
requirement. Okay.
So just a clarification on this. Our ordinance, which we are what grants, has the discretion of granting a variance for, does not require a variance for this proposed scenario. But the state mandate, do we even have
Which
jurisdiction on that?
supersedes technically the municipal
Local,
standard, technically.
Right, do we have jurisdiction to be able
No.
to waive that?
No, we don't have jurisdiction to waive the state requirement.
So it's 3 cars parking is the state requirement, basically.
Right, but our ordinance says 2,
Right.
is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
I mean-
theoretically, we
Need to update
can't
that.
even approve this. We couldn't approve or reject that requirement, is what I'm saying. The only thing we can opine on is variance for not having one covered space.
Right, I mean, applicants do request deviations from RSIS standards on a routine basis, and I haven't seen any that go to DCA. Like, technically, they're supposed to get approval from the state for a deviation. I've never seen one actually get to that level. I think that's a technical requirement. I mean, how have you dealt with
Yeah,
RSIS
yes,
deviations?
right, yeah.
They'd be
It's
so busy.
stormwater, it's driving
Sometimes it's
dimensions.
parking stuff.
So how do you see it getting handled?
Right, but, I mean,
At the
becomes-
board level,
becomes-
typically?
yeah, it's at the board
And we
level.
can accommodate it.
Well,
We,
I-
we,
I
we
will
have,
note
we
that-
can accommodate it.
Well, the board can ask them to accommodate that. There is a provision in RSIS which does talk about being able to deviate from the standards at the municipal level. So there is some amount of a fudge factor. I forget exactly what it states. I could find it if the board was interested. But on the one hand, you're supposed to comply with it because it supersedes. On the other hand, there's kind of an out where I think you can't be more stringent, but you can reduce the amount of parking that's required. If
What-
that makes sense. You can't, let's say the state requires 3, the city can't say you owe 5. But you can allow for less given certain circumstances if there's a justification. That's my limited understanding.
And this is only because they want to build an extra bedroom.
It's based on the bedroom.
So currently the house is 3 bedrooms, right?
I don't know, is it?
Yes, the
So
current
from
house
that
is 3
perspective,
bedrooms.
They're not adding more, but they are shrinking the dimensions of the driveway, technically.
What's the guideline for a 3-bedroom?
2.
2.5, which
It's-
rounds up to 3.
So
No,
2.5 for a 3-bedroom and for a 4-bedroom, both 2.5?
2 for a 3-bedroom, 2.5 for a 4-bedroom.
Is it 2 for a 3-bedroom?
For single-family use, single-family
Oh, so if
dwelling.
it's 2, then you're good. I thought you said it was 2.5. I didn't.
Well,
No, no,
Well, no, they're
we
adding
have a
bedroom.
4-bedroom.
Oh, well, then in that case, I'm sorry.
That's
So
okay.
it's because of
The
the
additional bedroom.
addition that is changing the whole thing. Okay.
I just do want to pull up the specific standards governing this, the New Jersey Code, Section 5:21-4.14, parking number of spaces under the residential site improvement standards allows for local reviewers to allow for fewer parking spaces when warranted based upon household characteristics, access to mass transit, geographic location, or off-site parking resources. So we do have authority to lower the amount of required parking spaces based upon those characteristics.
That's true, they changed it to a maximum
Right.
now, right?
It's, right, you can't ask for more, you can grant less. That's so it's up to the board whether or not they're convinced that they can, I suppose they can come back in the future. It seems like they have 2 vehicles now, obviously kids get older.
No young drivers yet, yeah.
But it's not
It's-
uncommon in
it's
that
coming.
neighborhood that currently does not have sidewalks. That's
Right.
the parking issue.
And we have about 8 feet of planting from the house to the driveway right now. So we can accommodate that, we would just prefer not to. But
Let me just clarify. You have how many you have how many bedrooms?
4.
4 bedrooms. So I'm seeing that it's 2.5 parking spaces per unit. But if I go down to the footnotes in it, it said,
Round up for multifamily.
results in a fractional, if it results in a fractional space for the entire development, any fraction of 1/2 or less may be disregarded,
Oh,
while a fraction in excess of 1/2 shall be counted as 1 parking space. So why do they even say
Go
that?
back to 2.
So we round down,
Rounding down to
basically
2.
rounding down.
oh, so we
How
can,
do you get a fractional parking when it's 2 or 2.5? So you're right.
A moped? Yeah.
Well.
Yeah.
So no deviation potentially from that perspective.
I mean, it's a pretty common
Based on
practice
that.
in that neighborhood. You got to park. where you
And the
park.
city ordinance requires 2 spaces, so that you're compliant from that perspective.
great.
Marie, do you have any other
No, I have no
questions?
other questions.
Tom?
Just to reiterate the variance relief that's being sought. You have the 4 variances. We covered the parking issue. The lot coverage variance, the R6 zone allows 40%. You're at 41.7%. That's a deviation of 108 square feet, except that you're only increasing the coverage by 21 square feet. You're requesting a building coverage variance where, actually, it looks like you're reducing the building coverage because I don't think you factored in the deck into the existing. Technically,
I
it's
didn't,
building, so I
we
think you're
didn't, we
actually
did not
reducing it.
actually do, yeah, we
by
did
some
not count the
amount.
deck.
And the overage is only 95 square feet. And the FAR is 35%, you're at 35.3%. That's a deviation of 17 square feet. I think you mentioned that the one architecturally pleasing aesthetic compound is really what's driving that. Also note that the 8x16 shed itself is 122 square feet, which exceeds both the lot and building coverage variance. So really, it's the shed that's kind of driving it, which would seem to be a low impact sort of.
Can you
Condition.
clarify what you mean about reducing building coverage?
So in the coverage chart on sheet 2 of the architectural plans, it shows existing conditions and proposed conditions. In the building coverage calculation for existing conditions, the 311 square foot deck is not considered, which it should have been. So again.
It's on the variance plan figure 2, it doesn't.
Right.
Wait, but so that's the lot coverage? Are we talking about lot
That's,
coverage?
no, building coverage. Building.
Okay, so figure 2, okay.
So you'd add 311 square feet to the total,
Okay,
which,
Because of the height above grade, is that why?
yeah, when it's 1 foot or more above grade. I'm just trying to see what that gets you. Well, it gets you to approximately what's proposed, so it's not a significant increase. Let's leave it at that.
We're proposing 1,345.
As far as
Are we
other
looking at,
comments.
wait, is it figure dash 2A? Is that,
That's lot coverage.
Yep, figure,
that's the lot
figure,
coverage? Okay,
it's
so
the-
which, I'm
well, no,
sorry,
if you go to the lot coverage summary, right, and you see the first tab here is building coverage, it's highlighted. And
Oh.
we've got the dwelling,
Mm-hmm,
the overhangs, the porch, which is 0 in the existing, and the shed, which was 96 existing. So if you added 1031, 44, 96, and 311, that would be technically the existing.
oh, but with the 311 doesn't count, wasn't counting in the building coverage. in
We
your
didn't
fir-
count it, but
Right, yeah.
Right, so in effect, it's a net decrease is just my point. So they still technically need a variance, but they're actually reducing the site's building coverage by eliminating the deck.
I'm sorry, I'm.
So I think if you just-
yeah,
if you
because
just
I'm looking
focus
at
on the
building
pro-
coverage
yeah.
is 1031 plus 44 plus 96
Plus
existing.
311.
No,
Right.
the 3, well, the
Right.
311 is showing up
Right, but
in
he's
But
saying-
site
technically-
coverage, not building coverage.
Right, I'm
Like-
saying that was an error.
We
It
were
should have
wrong.
been included in building coverage.
decks count in
Because the
building
deck-
coverage when
deck-
they're above
Oh,
a foot
right,
above.
got it.
Right, right,
Oh, because it's over a foot above grade, is that?
Correct.
correct.
Ah,
That's the
okay.
threshold.
Got it. And now that it's ground level, it doesn't count,
Right.
sort of.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting, yeah.
But again, the deviations are what they are. I'll leave it at that. And beyond that, I don't think I had any further comments, other than screening the AC units.
Yes, of course.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Questions from,
far enough away from the property line?
The requirement is 5 feet, and I believe they meet that. I'll verify that.
Just wanted to make sure they didn't have to come back.
Yeah, no, good to look at that. I think we did, and I think they measured that. Bear with me.
It looks like it's 2.
2 units?
2 AC units?
2 units. Right, so there's no setback, but the lot line is the darker blue line all the
Yeah,
way.
there's just no dimension.
There's no dimension, but it looks like it's more than 5 feet.
The left side is 10.03 feet,
Okay.
so we'll have plenty of room to fit it.
Okay, so the ACs will be at least 5 feet?
Yep.
From the side, okay. And screened in accordance with
Yes.
requirements.
questions from the board?
Yeah, I have just one. You might have covered it before and I missed it, but these 2 drains that are there, to the neighboring property to the left. On your property, you have a drain tube running to that drain furthest in the front. Where do those drains go to? Where are they draining to?
The neighbor's drains?
Yeah,
I'm honestly not sure. I'm not sure where my neighbor's drains go.
because the drain tube on the left side of their house runs into this little pit, and there's a grate drain there. And it's showing.
Are you talking about our house or the neighbor's house?
The neighbor's house. What, do you know where those drain to? Where are they going to?
I think he's talking about Steve's.
To the left, if you're looking at your house, to the left.
Talking about one of our leader pipes, or?
Looking at the house to the left.
There's an inlet in the yard, in the
Yeah.
side yard.
A couple of them.
So he's saying, where does that
It's showing
go?
two here. I didn't see the one in the back, but I did see this one. And there's your left downspout is a little pit
Yeah,
there, and
yeah.
there's a,
So I guess he's saying they also dump out.
My understanding is everything drains down the hill, away from my property, because there's a catch basin in the street at the bottom of their driveway. So everyone, they lift up that driveway when they added all
That
this,
is the catch basin.
water
To your
removal all
point,
the way
if you dump it out.
inside the house down the driveway. And it actually connects underground to that catch basin.
but what I'm asking is where those drains drain to? Is it a storm drain? Is it, where are they going to?
I'm confused. Are you asking us where the neighbor's drains go?
Yes.
Well, it's the pipes.
Yes,
'Cause-
but also one of their downspouts, and there's a,
Their downspout connects to it, is that what you're saying?
from their house, and it's draining into that pit that's right at
Oh,
the front.
That'll be removed. That,
No, what I'm asking is where those, does anybody know where those drains are draining to? Is it a storm drain? Is it a dry well? Is it?
Call your brother.
well, I know what goes on his property in general. So in general, there's a dry well in the back behind his garage in the driveway. Everything drains towards that dry well, and then there's an 8-inch overflow pipe that connects to the catch basin in the street. All that was done by permit.
Okay, so that, well, that's what I was.
But I don't know for sure where those two, I can't
Well, I only saw the one.
say
I
for
didn't
sure
see
where
the one-
those go.
I didn't see the one in the back. I
There's a
saw the one-
downspout on the back of our house.
Yeah.
You connect to.
Sir, can you speak into the microphone?
Sorry.
Thank you.
There's the downspout on the back of our house when I bought the house. Used to connect to a black pipe that went directly into Steve's house. When I bought the house, I was like, I don't know why this is. We're draining into your home.
All I was just trying to find out where, because I noticed that and I didn't know. When I was looking, it looked like it was on the neighbor's property, and technically you're not supposed to drain your stuff over to
And,
somebody
and
else.
so I remedied that. And so if you look at the house now, that's disconnected. It's still in the ground, because I didn't rip up the ground, that pipe, but there's nothing going through that pipe. The water now from our gutters comes down, and I'm no engineer, but I put on the side of the house, that runs down the side of our house at a slight pitch, and goes to the front of the house and drains out to the front of the house. So there's nothing that's draining from my house to his house,
Well,
because
it
bef-
looked like that.
yeah, it looks, you're right, it does look like that, but it's not actually, if you actually look at it, there's nothing connected to it. Because before, his brother spent a lot of money redoing all of the drainage, they had a big water problem. And I didn't want to contribute to it, so and again, we bought the house like that, I removed it.
And they're gonna be independent systems.
Yeah, it almost,
They're
it
not gonna be
almost
connected.
looks like that's the drainage system for your brother's house, and probably somewhere along the line, the previous owner said, hey, go ahead. You know, I share a drainage with my neighbor's house. We have one pipe between two properties. All of our leaders go to that, and then it goes, I'm not gonna say where, but it goes.
You're not coming in front of us?
Any other?
Yeah, just, and I know you explained this, but just please explain it again.
Yep.
That drainage pipe of yours comes out to the street and then goes in front of the neighbor's property, which happens to be your brother's. Why? It's underground to connect to the storm drain, or is it
No,
just daylight?
it's gonna daylight, so it's not gonna be in my brother's property, it's gonna be in the right of way, right? In that 10 feet that's kind of town-owned. So we're gonna come down the side of of the Levine's property. And then in order for us to get to get the amount of pitch we need from this corner to there, at that point, we're still underground. Where if we just slide a little bit down the road, then we can daylight and get pitch.
So your explanation is before it makes that left, there's not enough, there's no daylight there?
No, you can see like the road, if we were to come straight out there,
You expect me to read those numbers?
the road is like 283 and a quarter, I would say, where we're daylighting down at 281.77, so we're able to pick up 1.5 foot of elevation change there.
Now, will any of the sump pumps connect to this drainage?
That's not proposed currently, no. We're not adding new sump pumps, the sump pump's working now, what's it connected to
Where do they go,
currently?
where do they go now?
I have a question. So I would say this is a little bit of an unconventional lot. Like you said, it's 50 feet, so it definitely makes it a little tricky to put that garage in the back. The shed is counting towards your building coverage, one of the things that's pushing you over. However, if it's a garage, you're exempt, is that right? Like a 576 feet up to, right?
Of
But
FAR,
not on lot
coverage.
coverage and building coverage.
Not, I'm just wondering, did you consider, it's unconventional, and Summit also has a restriction on front-facing garages, but everybody on your street has a front-facing garage, of putting a garage in the front of the house and incorporating that into the architecture of the house?
Like in this area
Well,
here?
kind of maybe in front, take where your entrance is, and to the right of the entrance, from there maybe to, close to the property line, 2 feet, whatever you're allowed for a garage.
Yeah, so we looked at all options. In order to do that, you'd be getting close to having to tear the house down. I mean, you would have to fill in the existing basement in part of that area. Not to say it's impossible, but,
Fill in, I'm talking about where, like, putting it on top of where you're saying you have 8 feet, right, of landscaping. Get rid of,
pull it
theoretically.
forward?
And then you put a garage right there that is a 2-car garage.
Forward of the house?
Yeah. I'm just
So
wondering,
Summit has a
whether that
design
was-
regulation that is really against the snout designs. You're not allowed to have a garage more than 8 feet in front of the front.
But you're
plane.
also not allowed to not have a garage, so.
Understood.
I was wondering,
Understood.
it's a sort of a,
There's, again, you still have the coverage issues, the building coverage.
Yes.
Beyond that, it looks like the front yard setback is established.
Yep.
You'd be that much closer to the street. I'm not trying to be a naysayer, I'm just fleshing
no,
this out.
I'm just wondering if that was,
If you did it to the right of the house.
We
you'd
tried
have
it to the
You'd
right.
have a really tight setback of like 0 feet almost, 2 feet.
I don't know if you would get access to the rear of the
So
property.
you're 35.7 feet from the right-of-way, and you need to
Or-
be 32.4, okay.
Right, I was gonna say, I mean, if you replace the shed with a detached garage, but that's, more coverage trying to get back there.
And it's just hard to get around the building.
Is there-
They have trouble already getting around it.
Is there a size requirement for a garage? Like you put like a
10 by
little
20.
tiny? You can't,
10 by 20.
okay, you can't put like a,
interior.
you can't put a tiny little, like where it looks like a garage but really wouldn't fit a car?
You need the minimum dimension for that reason, so that it practically could fit the car.
I mean, with the
Or you
width of the
can't cut
lot,
it in
you
half
cut
and-
off access to the
A
rear.
2025 car? No.
Yeah, no Suburban, yeah.
I mean, it's a tough, if you were starting fresh, you could accommodate a garage, but it's pretty hard with the existing house that's there to accommodate it. And I think the end result, if you tried to force it in from a neighborhood context, the house would look a little out of place.
Are there other houses on this block, on this street, in this neighborhood that do not have garages? No, guys, you can come up,
You guys might know better than me.
There are a few.
There are a few.
We're not the only one. There are a few. There's one on Webster, close towards Morris. Yeah, there's, near the Midas, yeah, there's one over there. We just have a very narrow lot. We raised 2 kids with nowhere to put a stroller. or nowhere to put like the stuff you would normally put in the garage, because most of these garages are too small to put a car in. And so everyone just uses them for storage. That's why we thought about putting it on the side, but then we couldn't get access to the back of the house, as you mentioned. Putting in the front, then we're too close to the front of the house, and now it's too tight to park in front of it. You can't put it in the back because it's too narrow to get on the side of the house. And those trees are beautiful, they go down the side of the property, but they grow. And so every 2 months, you get less and less space as those trees, there's nothing more than we want. We wanted a garage. It was the first thing we talked about, but there was no way to do it without completely tearing the house down. And so now that our kids, our youngest is 5 now, we don't use a stroller anymore. We think that now the issue is bikes and toys and things like that, and that's why we're asking for a larger shed to be able to accommodate that in lieu of a garage.
Any other questions from the board?
No.
And no public is here, so no questions from the public. Guess we can- Do you have anything you want to close with here or anything?
No, I think just thank you for hearing the case. Again, we've kind of tried to very carefully design this from the start, and we really feel like what we're proposing is a benefit to the site and the neighborhood. I think there's visually more green space. We think the porch helps to scale the building down into the house, into the neighborhood. I think there's plenty of light and air. We have the neighbor's rear yard adjacent to our right. The site's very buffered with trees all around. We're adding 2 trees to kind of complete the buffer. And we hope you, and thanks for listening. I hope you guys see favorably on this.
Thank you. What are our conditions?
We only have 2 conditions. It's the basic compliance with the conditions set forth in the board engineer's memorandum, and the applicant shall screen AC units in accordance with the city's requirements. Additionally, because this is a D variance, it requires 5 votes. Just want to let the applicants know.
Yeah, so typically we would have 7 board members, but today we only have 6. So you will be able to hear our executive session and kind of know how it's going, and then before we go to a vote, probably we'll just ask you if you want to continue for tonight with the vote, or if you want to.
Hold off until
Hold
there's
off.
7 members.
Yeah, so that's basically.
How would that work, though, with the people who weren't here?
They would have to watch it on YouTube.
And become familiar with the
Sign the
application
form.
before they can vote on it, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to start executive session?
I can start this one. I have a very similar situation with my property when I built my house back in 1999. Narrow lot, 50-foot wide, but mine's a little bit deeper. I fought for a garage. I really did fight for a garage because you don't realize, I never had a garage growing up, and I always wanted a garage. I have a 2-car garage. It is unfortunately not able to fit 2 cars. It fits everything else. But that being said, I understand the issue here. You know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So I can support this application. It's really, there's really not much more they can do. Maybe they could change the size of the bedrooms, but then you get into, is the bedroom big enough? Is it really worth it being a bedroom? Maybe it's all kinds of things going in here. I don't think it's a detriment to the neighborhood. It's definitely going to improve the character of the house. Is parking in the front of the house the best scenario? Not always, but I think in this case, it's happening now, so it's nothing really different. So I can definitely support this application.
Anyone else?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I can support this too. It's a tough lot. It's really narrow, and, you know, the renovation is relatively modest. I don't see any negative impact. That neighborhood has a wide variety of all different types of houses. I can support this.
I have a concern that, you know, it's a 3-bedroom on a, you know, a small lot, no garage, and now it's because we're making it into a, you know, because we're making it into a 4-bedroom, all these other, you know, you're making it, the house bigger, but you can't make the lot bigger. So you're dealing with all these, yeah, so a 4-bedroom, you might have, you know, something, more kids, more stuff. It's almost like you're adding, I don't know, I almost feel like that's creating all these other extra needs because of, you know, maybe not this family, but another family comes in and they have, you know, they have 3 kids and then they have more bikes and there's more stuff and more cars. I'm just conflicted on that for this reason, like everything, like that triggered. It's not like, you know, we have some needs and we're gonna just make, you know, get an extra bathroom, a full bath, and keep it as a 3-bedroom. But maybe like, you know, just change the configuration of the rooms, make them bigger. But the fact that we went to a 4-bedroom, I just think you get to a point where you just, house is getting, like I said, everything else, you know, could possibly move more cars, more bikes, etc. So I'm not sure how I'm gonna have to hear everybody else's.
I guess I should speak up then. I applaud you. I think you've approached this very pragmatically and very restrained. You're taking a bad situation, you're trying to improve it. It's existing non-conforming with not having the garage. You're trying to address that as best as you can. The increases to the house are very modest. We're talking less than 100 square feet, less than 22 was another number. This is not like 1% that's 1,000 feet. This is a very, very small change. And if you remove your shed, you would be conforming with one of those elements itself. I think the fact that your neighborhood already has this condition, not only just you, but also other people in the neighborhood, I don't see a downside. I don't see that negative impact. I see it as a positive impact. You're investing in the community, you're investing in this house, and again, it's a very, very thoughtful, restrained request. For that reason, I can support this.
Mr. Neering, did you?
I can support this as well, for exactly the same reason Mr. Feskins stated. It's a modest improvement, but I think it has a big impact to you and your family. And it's in keeping with the rest of the character of the neighborhood, so I fully support it.
I am generally supportive of this as well. I mean, the 21 square feet of lot coverage is one of the most modest asks I think we see here in front of the board. That said, the one thing that, you know, slightly troubles me is the aesthetics of this driveway and having 4 cars parked like in front of the house. And if the requirement is really only for 2 cars, I'm just wondering whether that driveway could maybe, like across the street, you have a drive. Now they have a 1-car garage built into their house, but you have sort of maybe a 2-car driveway that tapers, and then, you know, it's a 1-car drive-in. It just looks. I think that the architectural plan is really nice, and I think the houses will look beautiful. But I feel like that the hardscaping in the front is just so heavy, and I'm just wondering if, you know, given that that's actually not required, you know, could this be something where, and then you would be not over lot coverage. You wouldn't need a variance probably for lot coverage if you tapered your driveway a little bit just to, you know, and I don't know, to soften it. Maybe I'm the only one who's looking at it like flat on paper, but it's a lot of asphalt in your front yard, and the house is so pretty that I feel like it would look nicer if you had just a little less asphalt, but that's, you know, I'm kind of interested to hear if anybody else has a.
I agree, but I have an issue with the larger driveway with, you know, parking lot basically in the front yard. I agree. I think it is a lot of hardscape.
I mean, and an 18-foot wide driveway.
It's permitted in the R6.
It's permitted.
Right.
But with a garage, right? So there's, I mean, or like typically, it's just that there's nothing kind of softening it, I feel.
So you could ask for landscaping, to your point, you could, I think you're saying you have an issue with sort of the straight in versus a more curvilinear.
Yeah, because I think it looks, like I said, I think the architectural plan looks really nice, but at the end of the day, if you do have 4, it's just a lot of the driveway is almost as big as the house in terms of square, like footprint. It's a little different shape, but it's just a lot of driveway in the front yard, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that can be done to just soften that a little bit. And that softening may even get rid of the variance for the lot coverage, because it's 21 square feet, so,
Well, there's the driveway, there's also the walkway that's adjacent to that. I don't know what the width of that is. Right, I mean, practically, you know, obviously, once you have cars in the driveway, it may be hard to navigate and make your way up to the house, so that's probably why
Yeah.
they have the walkway.
Even with an 18-foot wide driveway, you're walking on the grass.
It's
Right.
not luxurious, yeah, it's not
yeah.
terribly wide.
I mean, you could potentially be parked on the pavers on the walkway a little bit too, depending on your cars, or your, okay.
I mean, would you,
Madam Vice Chair, would we want to hear from the architect and get their opinion on this, technically, since we're in executive session?
Sure, yeah. Do you have a,
Well, I think, could we take a break and I can discuss with my client, or?
sure,
I would suggest a short break.
yeah. A 5-minute break, is that good?
Perfect. Just go outside for a second.
Oh, from a distance, I'm like, ooh, not now, no. It was before the meeting. Okay. All right, we'll come back into session.
Okay, thanks. Sorry to take a little longer than I thought. I think Doug's going to try to start just with trying to explain some of the reasoning behind why they wanted to do this way.
Yeah, it was always part of the plan to have a double width driveway because I spend 200 nights a year moving our cars around to try to get them out because they're front to back. And park it here, park it back, go there. It's more than half the year I'm doing this, so I really wanted to have a double width. There are other houses on Montrose, on Colonial, that all have double width driveways, and many of which have sidewalks on the side, especially on Colonial. And so I didn't think it was out of character for the neighborhood. Since we not only we wouldn't be the first, but there are many, many others that have it. If we have a cut that comes along the center, then that doesn't sort of address our issue, which is having to move the cars multiple times. So I would prefer not to have to do that, just because that's one of the, whenever you go into a renovation, you have 10 things you're trying to address. That was one of the things that we were trying to address from the get-go.
Well, I was just wondering if there was a way to make it like a 3-car driveway. I mean, the requirement is 2, but you eventually will have teenagers and possibly a 3rd car or something, where, maybe at the street level it's 2, but then on what you pick a side where you're parking tandem. I don't know, it was just a thought. It would make the front yard a little greener, and since you're not required to have 4 cars, parking for 4 cars, it was a thought, just because with the right-of-way and, it's more than 40 feet length of paving by 18 feet wide, so it's, decent, it's a decent part of your front yard, and it seemed like it might just soften it a little bit to make it a 3-car driveway as opposed to 4. But
I agree 100%. And I don't even think I would mind if I lost a spot when you have 4 spots. It's just the going out every single night and moving the cars around is my only concern. And if you have it, I just don't know where you
if
cut
you
it.
have 4 cars, you're still going to have to move cars around if you have cars in the front, right? That's the whole
100%.
You're going to have to back out. So this would,
When-
yeah, I'm just saying, if you had a 3-car driveway, you could have 1, 2, 3. I can't tell you how to design it. I'm not saying that you have to. I was just looking at this thinking it's a lot of hardscaping in the front yard and with the walkway, that maybe that would soften it, but, all right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so do our board experts have any questions or comments or?
We're wrestling with the same issues, trying to solve their issue of maximizing parking and to see if there's a way to soften it, but,
The
Sure,
only
getting
thing I
rid of
thought
it.
was if you had the far end where it's closest to the house, you had one space, and then the rest of that is green, and then the part closest to the road is the 2 spaces wide. It would just give it a little more green, and it would get rid of a variance. But I don't know.
If we were to go that route, I would suggest the opposite. I think having the larger paved area closer to the house would actually be better, because it becomes this like a grass island.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think that would be up to, I guess that would be up to them for what they think would be the most functional.
Yes, I would, unless they were trying to push, like, kind of bump it closer to the house, so it was like a staggered. I think we're, splitting hairs here. I personally, I think, again, I'm for what's presented. I'd certainly be okay with the shrinking of it, but I think what's presented is enough for me.
Good.
Done?
How many kids do you have?
2.
So you could conceivably wind up with 4 cars at some point in your life, right? So as I said earlier, my lot's very similar to yours. I have a long, narrow driveway. So I move cars, actually gets to the point where whatever car's at the end of the driveway, whoever has to go somewhere, they just take the last car. So I can, and I have a van, a big van, and my daughters hate it. So they call it the predator van. But anyway, I can feel your
Too
pain.
much info.
But, you know, I'm just trying to, I understand what you're saying, but, you know, it's, in that neighborhood, I know there's a house at the end of Montrose on the corner of Lafayette that has a rather large parking lot, or parking space, I should say. It's not uncommon for this neighborhood to be like that. You're kind of like a buffer, I shouldn't say buffer, but you're between neighborhood business and then larger residential, so you're kind of the intermediate zone there, so, you know, different things can happen in that, but parking, I understand on such a narrow lot how it can become an issue from personal experience, so I can still support this the way it is, and I can feel your pain.
Okay. Any other comments or? And I guess there is a note that there's a landscaped area ahead of the driveway. So I think if that is something that really breaks up between the house and the driveway and gives a little bit of softness to it, I could,
Sorry,
again, we're
Mr.
talking.
Vice Chair, if I could just interrupt.
Yep.
That's to the left, plan left. If we were to ask for some kind of landscaping on plan right in that small buffer between the current proposed Belgian block and the neighbors, would that help kind of soften from a landscape point of view?
I mean, you're talking about, it's only 2 feet though, right? That you're talking, I mean, if there's something that could be put in the 2 feet.
The arborvitae's, I believe,
They don't
stop
start
at the
back.
property line, or I'm sorry, the building line. If something like having bushes, boxwood, something.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
aesthetically-
yeah, maybe some kind of landscaping around, you know, where it's possible. Obviously, there's a walkway there too, but just to soften that. And I think that's really, it's 21 square feet that you're asking for. Again, I think that's very modest, but, you know, you just don't want the property to look overbuilt.
I have an idea. What if we were to pull the walkway a little off the driveway? Like, so the same 2-foot kind of landscaping that we have here, if we had 2 foot of landscaping there with stepping stones where you could access the driveway in between cars or something, that might soften.
I think it would, but I also think that driveway is, for 2 cars, is still like a little narrow, and you might end up, you know, I don't know, especially with teenage drivers and all of that, you might end up sometimes parking off of that a little bit, depending on what kind of cars you have in there. I mean, it's 18 feet is wide enough. It's just, it depends on what kind of curbing you have and all that. So if that's going to be, I don't know if that's flush or whatever. I think that, I mean, I could support it. I would like to see some landscaping, to Mr. Feskin's point, maybe if there is something that could be put in that 2-foot buffer. My concern is that then you don't, you know, maybe move the driveway over a foot so that you have space to do something there.
Well, there's these, they call them pencils. They're very narrow and
Yeah, you just, because you don't want it to, when you're opening your car doors, I mean, it's not very practical to have a lot on the side there, so I don't know if that's the place for
well, the pencils,
landscaping.
they don't spread.
Yeah.
They only get about, and they grow straight up.
There was a comment from the forester about, it just kind of reminds me, about 2 trees that we did not talk about. Where is it? That need to be placed or replaced, right? And I think that would have to be a condition, just meeting the foresters.
Yes,
You may actually making the driveway apron narrower?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, but that's, I think, in this particular case, it's a good thing, I think, but I don't know.
And that's in the right of way anyway, so it wouldn't
Yeah.
really count towards their, right?
Yep.
I'm trying to find the little
It's
forester's
the two
comment.
proposed evergreens for the right rear corner of the property must be 12 to 14 feet in height.
Okay,
In order
yes, so
to,
that's.
so these are
just-
these two evergreens here that we were planting. He just
they need
wants
to
them
be
to
12
be,
to 14 feet in height, so,
Evergreens.
yep.
Replacement evergreens.
in order to provide partial screening of the neighbor's deck.
I have something to say about parking. The houses in the area that do look like that, as far as what I recall, that do have the two side-by-side parking, usually there's a garage in front of one of them. So it's like it's just a, so this leads up to nothing. So it's a, visually, it's not even there. It's just a cement slab. Why can't one of the parking spaces be on the side of the house, right? And then just have the same cutout that you're saying? So why can't, this is one spot, this be another spot, and that be a third spot?
This is now an entrance to the
I know,
house,
but
the
there's
side
an
entrance.
right- Yeah, but the side entrance is right next to the front entrance, so that, I don't see, those entrances seem very close to each other, so I don't see why you can't have a parking spot there. I just think a driveway that looks like it's not even, because there is no garage, it doesn't even look like, it just looks like it's just a parking, slab, a big concrete slab. That doesn't, it's not like you're looking and say, there's the garage. That makes sense that there's,
Things like that.
Please come up to the microphone.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah,
If you wanted
sorry.
to-
I-
Just to respond to that, even without that side entrance, right now, if you have the car there, you can't open the car door because it actually hits, like it'll hit the side of the house. If you're pulling up, like past the house, you can't get out of the car on either side. I mean,
so the whole driveway, so, because the
Like,
original picture, it
as
says
it
existing
is,
paved drive, it's not
existing
a real
right now,
driveway?
so, what?
No, that's a driveway. You can see in picture.
It
Here,
says
the-
11.6 feet wide.
Correct. And there's a chimney that's not dimensioned to, but, and you have these arborvitaes, like it's dimensioning to a lot line, but the arborvitae's kind of creep.
All right, well, we've kind of gone very much out of our norm for executive session here. So I think let's get ourselves back on point and try to wrap this up one way or the other. So we have, what are our conditions?
So we have compliance with the conditions set forth by the board engineer's memorandum. The applicant shall screen the AC units in accordance with the city's requirements, and the applicant shall plant replacement evergreens of at least 12 to 14 inches in height.
Where were those?
Wait, yeah.
It's on the plan. in the-
12 feet.
12 feet.
Feet, yes.
12 to 14 feet
Yes.
in height.
Okay,
In the back.
yeah.
In the rear of the property.
Behind the shed.
Yes.
In the rear of the property behind the shed.
Okay, those are the conditions. And I guess before, I wasn't trying to cut people off with the executive session. If there are other comments that people want to make, I guess to Ms. Chifo, I would say that I agree that there is space for right in the front here where the side walkway for that to be one parking space. And I was thinking the same thing where you were saying, where it's like there's no garage to sort of buffer or soften it. That was one of the reasons I asked about the consideration of a front garage. And I guess the shed, does that need to be, Tom, that needs to be in a particular spot by zoning?
I think they have it 4 feet away, if they're 4.5 feet away from the side. we're
And that's
4
what it
feet
has to
apart.
be, like has to be,
So it's
4 feet
compliant.
that's the minimum, or can it be?
Well, the minimum's 4, they're at 4.5 on the side, and from the rear, they're at 9.1, where 4 is required. So, I mean, for a shed of that size,
Yeah.
it seems reasonable.
Yeah, okay. I mean, because I guess that, I was just wondering, another thought about pulling it forward, but there's not actually space to do that with the width of the property. I guess it wouldn't necessarily reduce any impervious cover, it would just change the look of the driveway if you did that. And then you do have the parking right next to the side of the house, which gets trickier for backing out. So I think that's a, you know, it depends on how important that is to you. But I think for me, it results in the same amount of impervious cover. So I think at this point, and having, I appreciate, you know, all the back and forth on this, which maybe seems like a little overkill, but in the end, we're all trying to make sure that it's the best result for the neighborhood too. So I think that I could support this with the understanding that there is going to be some landscaping around this driveway in the areas that are marked with landscaping. I'm not sure if, you know, they want to work with their neighbors. If the neighbor wants that driveway landscaped, maybe there's something that could be put on the shared property line to give it a little space. That's not something that I think we can mandate. Yeah.
You can, on the property line, no.
Yeah,
On their
yeah.
property- Yeah, on their
Yeah.
property.
I just don't
100%.
think
Sorry,
there's
yeah.
enough, 2 feet's not a lot of space for landscaping that's going to be effective without actually growing into their cars on that side. So, yeah.
Yeah, and the driveway, I mean, it's a asphalt driveway also, right? No,
Yes.
it says paved, that's, okay. I mean, maybe even that, maybe if it's, I don't know, more decorative, I don't know. I feel like, I'm just thinking a big black rectangle in the middle of the front yard, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Well, does anybody else have anything that they want to say? Anybody's,
I think we can respond to that if you'd like.
oh,
They're,
It's up to you.
yeah, okay,
Like-
let's, yeah.
they're amendable to a paver driveway instead of pavement.
I think that would probably look nicer in the scope of, you know, how big it is. Do you want to make that a condition? Are you willing to make that a condition? Paver driveway?
Okay.
Can I do it? Motion to approve?
Well, just
I mean, maybe
Okay.
conditions.
not to complicate that, but if you're talking about pavers anyway, you could probably incorporate the driveway and the walkway.
Yes.
And kind of just have it be one thing where
Right,
18 feet's dedicated to the driveway and there's some amount for the walkway, so the
yes,
width is
so can
a little
be a little flexible.
wider, right, and then I could,
So like
Be solid.
18 feet for the driveway and 3 feet for the walkway or something, is that?
something like that, but incorporated in the same design to minimize the visual impact. something
Yes.
like that.
And when there's no cars, it just looks like a, like
You
a
park
patio,
wherever you
which
want.
is- Yeah,
right,
look,
they
yeah,
could- Yeah.
Right.
That sort of thing.
that'd be nicer.
Mhm. And just on that subject, to the point about the apron, I mean, because you don't
Well,
want
if
to
you're
have to.
consolidating now, you could probably taper it a little bit.
Right, I'm just wondering, like, you know, when you're turning and pulling in and blowing snow out of your driveway and all that, sometimes the apron does help, and there's not one, but I guess if we're giving this
Or
flexibility.
to flare it out, you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, there's,
A
it's,
straight shot's probably.
it's, especially with the 3 extra feet,
Yeah.
right?
I think it's okay.
Yeah, so, okay, so like 18-foot paver driveway that will be, how do you word that, sort of adjacent to like a similarly, or incorporated?
I think you're gonna, because I'm thinking about the zoning officers who's
Mhm.
gonna review this, and so I think you're just gonna consider the maximum width of the whole
Okay, so
feature.
21
Yeah.
feet maximum
I
width
sup-
for the.
Whether it's 20 or 21.
Well, how
something
big,
like
how
that.
wide is the walkway on the
I think it was.
plan? Is it
something,
3 feet? It's hard to,
Then you don't need the Belgian block, which is 6 inches
I'll get
on
my
each
scale,
side.
hold on.
Right.
Yeah, right.
To 10. It is 3 feet.
okay, so 21 feet, and you're saying because we don't need the Belgian block now, so.
That's up to you guys, whether
Not to exceed.
that dimension works for you guys.
So, and if you, I mean, they probably wouldn't put block in
Yeah.
at that
They-
point, so
they
that,
won't.
yeah, so,
I wouldn't.
I
So 21 feet, not a walkway, driveway combination, not to exceed 21 feet in width? Or is that
I think that's
sort of how you would?
what we're at, right, to be
Okay.
of the same material.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
integrated design.
To exceed 20 feet.
So what's the zoning officer gonna say with a 21-foot
Well, if it's
driveway?
in the resolution,
That's good,
it'll just
okay.
be that dimension, I think.
Okay, so let's try this to make sure we all agree on the conditions. So, we have compliance with the conditions set forth by the board engineer's memorandum. The applicant shall screen the AC units in accordance with the city's requirements. The applicant shall install replacement evergreens, which must be 12 to 14 feet in height in the rear of the property behind the shed. And the applicant shall install a paved walkway, driveway combination not to exceed 21 feet in length.
Width.
Right.
Width, I had width, I said length. You said, I had paved walkway.
Pavers.
Paver. Walkway, driveway combination, not to exceed 21 feet in width.
Okay with that?
Can I do it now? Motion to approve.
Second.
We should give them the opportunity to.
Oh, yes. So would you like us to proceed with the vote at this point? Okay. Yes.
So Mr. Feskins was the motion, and was Mr. Nearing the second?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Vice Chair Zahn?
Yes.
Mr. Nelson?
Yes.
Ms. Chifo?
Yes.
Mr. Feskins?
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli?
Yes.
Mr. Nearing?
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
We do have some resolutions for memorialization tonight. First up is 15 Middle Avenue, zoning board application number ZB-25-2299. The eligible members to vote are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Nelson, Ms. Chifo, and Mr. Chanchuli. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Chifo,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And next up, we have 57 Hobart Avenue, zoning board application number ZB-25-2300. The same members are eligible to vote. Could we get a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Chifo,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli.
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is 8 Irving Place, zoning board application number ZB-25-2304. Same eligible members to vote. Could we get a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Ms. Chifo,
Yes.
Mr. Chanchuli.
Yes.
Okay, and last up, we have 23 Oxbow Lane, zoning board application number ZB-25-2296. The eligible members to vote are Vice Chair Zahn, Mr. Nelson, and Mr. Feskins. Could we get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Vice Chair Zahn,
Yes.
Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
Mr. Feskins.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
No minutes tonight.
can we get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
So for this December 8th meeting, do we all have to be present, like available for Zoom? How's it work?
So we're gonna carry it, is
But
what
yes.
it's looking like.
But we have to,
We
we all
have to
have to
say
be
all in
present on
favor?
Zoom?
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Aye, sorry, thought we did that. Okay.
Yeah.
Jessica, is that the beacon?
Yes.
Is likely going to carry?
Yeah, so what we've been
I don't know.
is,
She's just talking
that
about
Mr. Simon was not available for the 8th, so we're gonna.
Are we gonna be voting on that?
This is for sure,
That,
but what I've been told so
December
far
8th?
is that December 8th, we're gonna probably do a Zoom meeting and just vote to carry it
We're
to
gonna-
January 21st.
We're gonna vote to